Chapter 1049. Furthermore, you only have 2 years of high school. Since you've entered intensive training, you should make the most of it. Don't waste too much time on unnecessary things. I have a ready-made house. If you want to live in it, I can go to Xiaoiwei and get the key to open the door. He said it as a precaution so that Yi Qian would have a place to live immediately after moving out of school and wouldn't have to look for another place to live. When Yi Qian said that she would stay temporarily, he didn't think it was a long-term plan. However, at that time she was extremely resistant to him and restricted him a lot, so he didn't dare to interfere too much. Now that his status was different, he was confident that he could consider his future girlfriend's future as her future boyfriend. Yi Qian's first thought was to refuse, but when he heard Xia Jinyuan say, "Uncle Chen is almost 50 years old now. Little fox, you need to grow up as soon as possible so that he and Uncle Jen can live in the village without any worries and enjoy a retired life." His words hit Yi Qian's Achilles heel, and he couldn't refuse. Xia Jinyuan waited for her to nod her head. The military man's swift and decisive actions were immediately revealed when it came to this matter. First, he asked Yi Qian to call Principal Chen and ask if he had already spoken to the school and if the school agreed to let her move out of school temporarily. Then, he called Xiaoiwei and said that he wanted to borrow her house for Yi Qian to move in. In reality, he was just taking back the key that Xiaoiwei had kept for about 2 months. Principal Chen had already spoken to the school and told Teacher Tong that they would move out as soon as they found a house. Now that he heard that Xia Jinyuan had a house, Principal Chen laughed and said, "Then we don't have to be polite with him. Let's live there for 2 years. Major Xia will pay for everything." Xia Jinyuan didn't take a single cent from him. That evening, before 7 p.m., Yi Qian placed all of his textbooks in a brand new bookcase. In less than 2 hours, Yi Qian had moved out of school. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Xia Jinyuan, who only had 3 days of rest, had to rush back to the anti-chemical regiment to report. While Yi Qian was still packing up in his room, he had already left without saying goodbye. "Little Jian, Major Xia is indeed good to you. He's also an excellent person. I have no objections. But there's one thing I need to tell you. No matter how outstanding Captain Xia is, it's still his ability. As for you, you can't relax at any time. Always remember that you're a soldier. A soldier who needs to rely on his own hands to fight and doesn't need to rely on any connections." Xia Jinyuan taught Yi Qian how to be an outstanding soldier, while Uncle Chen and Uncle Jen taught Yi Qian how to be self-reliant, self-loving, and most importantly, self-respect. A girl is not a flower. She can also stand tall and proud in this world. Her efforts will not be in vain. She will be rewarded. Yi Qian kept every word they said in her heart. When she heard what they said, she nodded solemnly and said, "Don't worry. No matter what status Major Xia has, I won't rely on him for what I want. I can rely on my own 2 hands to fight for everything I want. Good girl, we've always believed in you." Out of so many children, why did his Uncle Jen value Yi Qian so much? Although she had outstanding abilities, there was also her character. Abilities were important, but character was even more important. Yi Qian, who had no one to rely on in her previous life, had already developed an independent character. In this life, she was reborn with regrets and hatred from her previous life. Revenge was not her main focus. After going through so many difficulties, she finally understood that her own abilities were the foundation of the world. Chapter 1050. Even if she wanted to take revenge, she had to have the ability to do so. In this lifetime, Yi Qian had never given up on destroying Yi Jifan's family. She had been working hard to improve herself so that one day, she could defeat Yi Jifan's family in one fell swoop. She had never given up and always worked hard. She wanted Yi Jifan to know that Yi Qian was not to be trifled with. Yi Qian was not to be trifled with. Yi Jifan had already known when she tore up number 1 middle school's admission letter. Until now, his daughter, Yi Ying, had been forced to transfer from number 1 middle school. Yi Jifan had warned his wife, Sun Dongqing, countless times not to take the risk of hurting Yi Qian. Although Yi Ying had left number 1 middle school, Yi Jifan had been keeping an eye on the school's movements. Yi Jifan had already found out about Yao Jing's expulsion on the day of her senior year exams. Sitting at the dining table, Yi Jifan poured himself a small glass of white wine. After taking a sip, he said to his gloomy daughter, "Fortunately, you managed to avoid her in time and didn't have any contact with Yao Jing. Otherwise, you might have been implicated again." He had never thought that his niece was so powerful. She had actually forced Deputy Bureau Chief Yao and Director Li's daughter to withdraw from school. He had asked his daughter to befriend Yao Jing because of Deputy Bureau Chief Yao. His niece, on the other hand, had forced Deputy Bureau Chief Yao's daughter to withdraw from school. "Yi Qian, who exactly is supporting you from behind?" Yi Ying's eyes darkened as she poked at her rice with her chopsticks. She then turned to Yi Jifan and asked, "Dad, did the Yao family not react? Did they just let Yao Jing be bullied by Yi Qian?" There was no reaction at all. It seems that they just did as they were told. They didn't plan to go against Yi Qian, nor did they plan to seek an explanation from the school. Yi Jifan had always told Yi Ying these things. It was better to know more than not to know. Yi Ying's eyes flashed with darkness as she gritted her teeth. Her voice became even more gloomy. "I don't believe that an orphan who used to have to listen to my whims now has the ability to do whatever she wants." "Dad, haven't you found out who's behind her yet?" "There must be someone behind her, otherwise she wouldn't be so capable." "Does the military support for her unconditionally? What other redeeming qualities does she have?" That's right, other than being able to read well. He didn't understand what other redeeming qualities his niece had. "That's why we can't touch her now. Before we figure out who's behind her, we must not act rashly. Right now, I'm glad that I let you transfer to another school. Ying, no one will be able to gain any advantage from her." Ever since Ying transferred to another school, Yi Jifan felt a lot more at ease. Although there were times when he was unwilling, seeing the smile on his daughter's face more and more, and the teachers of number 2 high school were very satisfied with his daughter's performance, the unwillingness in his heart faded a lot. Now that he heard that even Deputy Director Yao's daughter had been forced to drop out by Yi Qian, the last bit of unwillingness in his heart disappeared. Instead, he was glad that he made a prompt decision not to let his daughter continue to study at the provincial first middle school. Yi Ying, who had scooped out half of the rice in the bowl, bit her lower lip so hard that it left a circle of teeth marks. Even Yao Jing couldn't win against Yi Jian. How could this be? Thinking about the past and how she had suffered at the hands of Yi Qian, Yi Ying's eyes shone with a fierce light. After a while, she said, "Dad, you're right. Before we find out who's behind Yi Qian, we can't touch her." Also, she took out the jade pendant around her neck. Her delicate eyebrows flashed fiercely. "This jade, we can't let Yi Qian take it away. Grandma can forget about getting her hands on this jade." Chapter 1051. This jade pendant was as important as her life in Yi Ying's eyes. She would fight anyone who tried to snatch it from her, even if it was her grandmother. Yi Jifan's eyes narrowed at the mention of the jade pendant. Yi Qian had become so powerful, knew that the jade pendant was in his hands, and even mentioned it. Yet Yi Qian had not done anything. It was as if she had completely forgotten about the jade pendant. How could she forget? He had experienced her memory firsthand. It was impossible for her to forget. Since she hadn't forgotten, why didn't she ask anymore? Or did she not care about what the jade pendant represented? Did she not care that the jade pendant was actually her mother's legacy? For a moment, Yi Jifan could not figure out what Yi Qian wanted and what she wanted to do. The sliding door of the dining room opened. Sun Dongqing, who had been busy in the kitchen, walked out with a dish in each hand. Come, come, come. Drunken snail and flour crab. These are all your favorite dishes. As soon as she came out, Yi Jifan gave Ying a look, and the father and daughter stopped talking. They could not mention Yi Qian in front of Sun Dongqing. The moment they mentioned Yi Qian, the house would be filled with gunpowder. At the same time, it was very likely that she would run to school to cause trouble again. Therefore, the father and daughter rarely talked about Yi Qian in front of her to avoid unnecessary trouble. Yi Qian had chosen to forget about the Yi family ever since Ying transferred schools. Even Xia Jinyuan warned her not to go against Yi Jifan for the time being. Before she was 100% sure that she could defeat Yi Jifan, she would not take the initiative to provoke him. The midterm exam results came out 3 days later. As expected, Yi Qian topped the second-year cohort. When the results came out, the whole cohort sighed. She had taken 11 days off and still managed to get into the top class. Her ability was unfathomable. They could not catch up to her. When the teachers of Class 1 saw that Yi Qian was the top student in every subject, their complaints about her taking 11 days off also disappeared. A student like her was a natural scholar. Even if she studied on her own, she would probably be able to rank first. Teacher Tong was also relieved. As the head teacher, she was most worried about Yi Qian's absence and his absence at night, which would affect his studies. Now that the results were out, all the teachers, including Principal Chow, were relieved. Yi Qian, who had already moved out of the school for 3 days, did not care about the results after the exams. Other than the Chinese essay, which she was not confident about, she knew how she would score for the other subjects. She already knew what was going on, so she wasn't too surprised when the results came out. Even when he saw that he was in first place, Yi Qian's expression was still indifferent. When the other students saw this, they couldn't help but lament in their hearts. Difference, this was the difference. Results and scores were like numbers to her, numbers that were not worth mentioning. Your results will definitely be noticed by the admissions teachers of Tsinghua University and West University. You're so much better than second place. When Yi Qian's results came out, Meng Wen was the first to mention the direct admissions. His tone was somewhat sour. The teachers of Tsinghua University and West University haven't left yet. They'll definitely let you go later. Yi Qian already knew what Meng Wen was thinking. Before she could answer, Jiao Hai had already answered, "Don't worry." Yi Qian already said that she won't participate in the direct admissions of Tsinghua University and West University. She won't fight for a spot in the cohort. I don't believe that she would give up such a good opportunity. Meng Wen stiffened his neck and retorted. He stared at Yi Qian without blinking and very obviously probed. Do you know which third-year cohort students are likely to be directly recruited by famous schools? Chapter 1052. Yi Qian didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this kind of probing. Meng Wen's grades weren't bad, but there was still a gap between her and him. Forgive her for being blunt, but if there really was a direct enrollment quota, it probably wouldn't be Meng Wen's turn. How would I know which direct enrollment is available? I'm not interested in that. If you want to know, you can ask Teacher Tong. Also, Meng Wen, don't worry. Tsinghua and West University's direct enrollment quota won't include me. You don't have to think of me as an imaginary opponent. Instead of thinking about getting a direct enrollment quota, why don't you do well in your only 2 years of high school and build a solid foundation? Even if you don't get a direct enrollment quota, you don't have to worry about not being able to get into Tsinghua and West University. After all, the direct enrollment also depends on the score. If your score isn't good, you won't be able to get a direct enrollment quota, no matter how much you want it. Yi Qian directly reminded Meng Wen that instead of always thinking that she would take up a direct enrollment quota, it was better to work hard and use the score to speak for itself. If your score was high, why would you need a direct enrollment? Meng Wen's face turned red when she heard Yi Qian's words, but she couldn't refute them even if she wanted to. Moreover, she knew that he was reminding her for her own good. She moved her lips and softly said, "I understand, thank you," before walking away awkwardly. And Jiasin, who was next to her, was laughing so hard that she couldn't take it anymore. Yi Qian couldn't help but laugh and say, "Don't laugh until you're out of breath." Mengwen was worried and asked me what was so funny about you. No, I'm not laughing at what she asked you. I'm laughing at her probing. Ioyo, how is that probing? She might as well have asked you directly if you would take up a direct enrollment quota. Why are you so funny? Don't be the pot calling the kettle black. You're very funny in my eyes too. Yi Qian couldn't help but laugh until his eyes turned into crescents. Mengwen was a little narrow-minded, but she didn't have a bad heart. When she was awkward, it gave her a headache. When she was petty, it made Lu Xian go crazy. In short, she was an awkward girl. And Jiasin had always known how funny she was in Yi Qian's eyes. She looked at Yi Qian, who was laughing until his eyes were like lines. After a while, she sighed and complained, "It's a pity that you've moved out again. Once you're out, the dorm room's not as fun as it used to be." "No, I should say that once I move out, you won't be able to find anyone to teach you about mathematics and physics." Yi Jian pointed at the question left over from the mathematics class and raised her eyebrows. "So, I have to explain this question to you first. You can explain it to whoever wants to after we go back to the dorm tonight." Although they had moved out of the dormitory, Yi Jian was still concerned about the 5 girls in the dormitory. She tried her best to explain to them during the day after class. If they needed her explanation, she would use her spare time during the day to help them as much as possible. With Yi Qian's long-term help, the 5 girls' grades improved at a visible speed. By the time the second year of high school ended, all 5 girls were in the top 30 of the cohort. Yang Yi, Li Qian, Lu Lizhen, and Zhang Yuan's parents saw their daughter's grades climb from the bottom to the top. They all went to school on the day they received their notice before the exams and insisted on thanking Yi Qian. The teacher said that as long as their daughters could maintain their grades, they would have no problem getting into the top universities. They didn't have to worry at all. Why did they send their children to the province's #1 middle school? Wasn't it to let their children get into a good school and stand out? Chapter 1053. Now that there was hope, the parents were extremely grateful to Yi Qian. It was also on this day that Jiasin found out that even the chubby and slightly self-abased Li Qian was actually a child of a rich family, especially Zhang Yuan. According to Zhang Bin, her father's car was worth at least 1,000,000 yuan. Regarding this, Jiasin really wanted to have a chat with Yi Qian immediately to get over the shock. And Jiasin, whose hands were tightly held by Zhang Yuan's mother, had a stiff expression on her face. She tried her best to smile naturally and replied delicately, "Auntie, I will definitely tell Yi Qian when I get back, but I really can't accept your gift on behalf of him. Yi Qian has never thought of getting anything in return for tutoring us. Auntie, you really don't have to stand on ceremony. I've known Yi Qian for 5 years and know him too well. If I accept your gift today, he will definitely punish me to do at least 10 test papers. Auntie, can you bear to see me do 10 test papers? It's too miserable to do homework during the holidays." And Jiasin's teasing was not silly, but rather, she had a high EQ. Her words made all the parents laugh. They joked, "That's pretty good. We were hoping that Yi Qian would punish them to do test papers too." "Mom, don't put the adult's gift in our dormitory. I already said that Yi Qian wouldn't accept it, but you just had to bring it over." It was snowing heavily in Nan province. Zhang Yuan wore a red down jacket and sat by the bed. She said helplessly, "Yi Qian really doesn't need it. You and Dad can take it back." After Zhang Yuan spoke, Lu Lizhen and the other 2 also asked their parents to bring the gifts back. Looking at the bags of high-end goods in the dormitory, Jiasin secretly held her forehead. Interacting with a bunch of rich people was really stressful. If she really accepted these gifts and lost 1 or 2 items, she wouldn't be able to afford the compensation. She definitely couldn't accept the gift. Even if she did, she wouldn't be able to hand it over to Yi Qian. After the final exams, Yi Qian left the school on the same day. She had already told herself that she would not be coming back to collect the notice, nor would she return to the village. So, she did not know where Yi Qian was now. It was snowing heavily in the southern province, while the sun was shining brightly in Hainan. The sky was blue, the water was clear, and the sunlight shone on the seabirds. There was no hint of winter at all. Yi Qian, who was basking in the warm sun, did not have the chance to enjoy it. The purgatory training had entered the endurance testing phase. They had to complete 6 extremely torturous tests within a set time limit, and they had to achieve an excellent grade in each of the tests. In 25 seconds, the player could crawl 50 meters backward, clear obstacles in 20 seconds, complete a 2,000-meter run in 15 minutes, and swim 150 meters in full gear. After completing these 4 tests, they could not rest. They had to remove their gear within 30 seconds, complete 50 sit-ups and 50 push-ups per minute. Yi Qian did not even frown when she completed the last 6 tests individually. However, after completing the high-intensity tests, her entire body was so sore that she had to lie down on the ground. Even if she were to lie down in a smelly ditch, she could still close her eyes and sleep. You don't have enough stamina. You need to eat more to increase your stamina. After you pass the last 2 tests, girl, you still have to do a 30-kilometer-long rapid march. You have to reach your destination within a set time limit. After completing 50 push-ups, Yi Qian lay down on a bush. Dressed in camouflage, she stared at the blue sky and white clouds. She panted heavily as she answered, 1 week, Uncle Chun. Give me 1 week. I will definitely pass all 6 tests. The winter break was very short. She had to seize every moment to improve herself. Hard work was inevitable, but the rewards would benefit her for the rest of her life. Chapter 1054. Principal Chun turned off the stopwatch, opened the military water bottle, and handed it to Yi Qian. My intensive training is different from normal intensive training. You will need to memorize the location of each province and country, as well as the latitude and longitude of each country. I will also test you on the models, differences, and shooting ranges of the guns and ammunition. Intensive training was not only physical training, but also memory training. Yi Qian got up from the bushes after resting for 2 minutes. His dark eyes were as bright as obsidian. I will follow your instructions. I have rested enough, so I can begin the next step of the training. Let's talk about the classification of map. Since Major Xia still hopes that you can command, you must know about maps. Headmaster Chun opened a light aluminum folding table that was used for marching. It was 50 centimeters long and 30 centimeters wide. He spread out a military map and said in a stern voice, maps can be divided into normal maps and specialized map. According to their uses, they can be divided into teaching maps, political maps, military maps, flight maps, and so on. Next, I will talk about military maps, which include sea maps, aviation maps, and other specialized maps. Military operations cannot be separated from map. Maps are used to reflect information about the terrain and landforms. Maps are the eyes of the military. They are a silent guide. No matter what, you must understand them and be able to draw them immediately. You need to have a certain level of knowledge about how to recognize and use maps, as well as 6 basic elements to complete the drawing of a military topographic map. Principal Chun was very knowledgeable, and his teaching was very detailed. His low and deep voice allowed Yi Qian to listen attentively and quickly digest the professional knowledge. The plane Cartesian coordinates on a military map are different from the Cartesian coordinate system in mathematics. The longitude is the vertical axis x, and the equator is the horizontal axis y. Look here. He pointed lightly on a military map with a pencil, indicating for Yi Qian to see it clearly. Here is the vertical axis X, and here is the horizontal axis Y. Yi Qian had always absorbed such profound and difficult professional knowledge very quickly. Principal Chen only needed to explain it once and give an example to understand it. Magnetic azimuths are widely used in military operations, artillery, aviation, and navigation. When drawing a military map, you must understand this and be able to clearly mark it. For example, like this. Principal Chen took out a piece of white paper and quickly drew with a pencil. After a while, a simple military map appeared on the white paper. After learning how to draw a military map, you also need to know how to study the map on the map. According to the characteristics of the military units, the mission, the enemy situation, and the weather and season, you need to make a comprehensive analysis, research, and judgment. Only after you understand and grasp everything can you decide on a combat operation. This was the knowledge that a commander needed to know. It was also the ability that a special forces soldier had to possess. Yi Qian listened attentively and was even fascinated. From it, he quickly learned the importance of military map drawing, map analysis, and battle planning. He also knew that terrain analysis had a huge impact on the mobility of the military. You need to know how many railways and roads the entire military would pass through. If there were armored mobility, you need to know how long the bridges were, how wide they were, and how much weight they could bear. Commanders need to know all of these. Only by knowing these, understanding these, and grasping these can you analyze and judge the possibilities of the various military units along the roads and off-road opportunities, as well as logistics and so on. Only then can you be confident of winning the battle. Chapter 1055. Principal Chen and Xia Jinyuan had an overnight conversation before the winter break. After sending Yi Qian back, Xia Jinyuan took the initiative to look for the world-class sniper and told him about his proposal to train Yi Qian to become an all-around ace soldier. Principal Chen did not object to his proposal at all. He did not even hesitate before agreeing to it. Yi Qian's ability was not just a little bit. The more he spent time with her, the more he could see her outstanding ability and super adaptability. He could also see her tenacity that did not match her delicate appearance. Like a tree, standing tall and proud. Like the sea, vast and boundless. Like a well, unfathomable. The more her teachers taught her, the more they cherished her talent. They wished they could teach her all the best knowledge in the world. Sometimes, they even worried if they could beat her. This was because the speed at which she absorbed knowledge was so fast that it shocked everyone who had taught her. From military maps to military command, and then to military tactics, Yi Jian spent the entire winter vacation going through the hellish training of ice and fire. At the same time, she crazily absorbed the knowledge of the field that she had never been involved in. Principal Chen was amazed by her ability to absorb knowledge, while Yi Qian was amazed by Principal Chen's erudition. Tactics are also known as the art of using troops or the art of command. According to the basic types of combat, tactics can be divided into offensive tactics and defensive tactics. According to the military types, arms, and tactics involved in the tactics, they can be divided into military tactics, troop tactics, and contract tactics. According to the scale of the battle, they can be divided into army tactics, troop tactics, and detachment tactics. After a morning of intensive training, Yi Qian walked into the eastern mountainous area of the central part of Hainan Island. The sun was not above her head, but a drizzle. Wearing a camouflage cloak and raincoat, she sat under a wide banana leaf. Her lips were slightly pursed as she listened attentively to Principal Chen's explanation. In her eyes, Principal Chen, the world-class sniper, was a walking military textbook at this time. Whether it was military tactical knowledge or military command, everything was available to her. Yi Qian was now talking about military and tactical knowledge, and he was extremely interested in the types and styles of combat Wang Chong was talking about. In battle, regardless of whether you are attacking or defending, you should establish the fearless mentality of actively eliminating the enemy, the spirit of not being afraid of sacrifice, and the determination to fight bravely. However, you must remember that the country did not groom you to sacrifice yourself. You must be prepared to sacrifice yourself, but the ultimate goal is to destroy the enemy. In any battle, you must pay attention to protecting yourself, especially against the attacks and interference of the enemy's high-tech weapons and equipment. A commander must first be well organized, fully prepared, and know how to judge the situation and fight flexibly. You're commanding from the rear, and there are tens of millions of soldiers charging at the front. Every step they take is based on your decisions. Therefore, even though the commander is at the rear, his responsibility is huge. Remember not to make unrealistic battle arrangements in battle. Once the taboo is violated, it won't be one soldier sacrificing his life, but tens of millions of soldiers. Last Jian, you must always remember that you need to work together in battle. Once your cooperation is destroyed, you must recover in time. You must keep the death rate to a minimum. Only by ensuring comprehensive protection can you guarantee victory. The commander was the soul and brain of the entire army. Without a commander on the battlefield, the army would be like a sheet of loose sand, rushing around randomly without any fighting power. After Yi Qian finished listening to the 1.5-hour lesson, he understood that it was not easy to be a commander. Chapter 1056. It was much easier for a soldier to fight alone than a commander. A soldier could quickly make decisions that were beneficial to his team based on his own judgment, but a commander was different. A commander had to be in control of the overall situation, know how to deploy troops, know how to coordinate, and when there was a disruption, immediately and quickly adjust tactics to ensure victory. After knowing all this, Yi Qian was even more impressed with Xia Jinyuan's ability. At the same time, Yi Qian was a little curious about Principal Chen's past. Such a powerful person, why did he choose to retire? In the past, she naively thought that Uncle Chen was just a world-class sniper, but after this winter's intensive training, she finally understood that the retired soldier in front of her was not as simple as he seemed. How could a world-class sniper who understood military command be simple? Uncle Chen, can I ask you a question? Yi Qian, who had put away the folding stool, asked hesitantly. I want to know, why did you choose to retire? Principal Chen, who had finished putting away the raincloth, turned around and joked. You held back for so many days before asking. Is it hard for you to hold back? A little, but I was afraid that it wouldn't be appropriate to ask, so I held back. Yi Qian pursed her lips and smiled. So Uncle Chen had already seen through her curiosity and was waiting for her to ask. Since that was the case, did that mean he could tell her? Indeed, he could tell her. It would be good for her to know a little. After Principal Chen smiled, his expression became a little more serious as he recalled the past. After the founding of the People's Republic, our country had always been forming its own special forces. At that time, we weren't considered special forces, we were only considered kings of soldiers. Because our country's first special forces were formed in 1988, and at that time, I had already retired. At that time, the kings of soldiers had to understand things that their comrades didn't. Their bodies had to be strong, and their intelligence had to be superb. They had to be able to cross swamps, walk across icy seas, climb cliffs, destroy packs of wolves, and destroy snake dens. Back then, we didn't have as much high-performance equipment as we do now, so we had to rely on our own abilities. You had to know military command, and you had to understand battle tactics. If you were released, you would be able to lead a regiment into battle. If you were released, you would be able to fight alone and secretly destroy the enemy. About 7 years ago, we went on a big mission. Out of 10 kings, only 4 came back alive. Although I came back alive, My identity was exposed, and I was given the identity of a world-class sniper. This identity wasn't given to me by the country, but was spread internationally. Because of this sudden identity, the military erased my identity after about 3 months of deployment in order to ensure my safety. I became a soldier who sacrificed on the international stage but was actually still alive. I have made too many enemies and exposed my identity. Retiring is the best choice. This paragraph was like a piece of history. It made Yi Jian understand how difficult and cautious the country was at that time. She also understood why it was still keeping a low profile and carefully hiding the military power of the country that was rising day by day. All of this is because we haven't had the best opportunity yet. All of this is because we are different from the developed countries. All of this is because we still need to work hard in secret and wait for the big countries to rise up. And that wasn't too far away. From the launch of satellites, the success of carrier rockets, the appearance of aircraft carriers, autonomous fighter jets, ballistic missile technology, military power was slowly revealed to the world after entering the 20th century. That would be the true rise of a great country. Chapter 1057. After listening for a long time, Yi Qian said softly, "Uncle Chen, did you feel that it was a pity? He was so capable, but he had no choice but to retire. He could have gone further, but in the end, he erased his identity and became the principal of a middle school in town with another identity. Did you feel helpless? Pity?" Principal Chen didn't feel helpless about retiring in such a way. He calmly accepted the army's arrangement. He smiled brightly at Yi Qian. "There's nothing to pity. We will all retire. It's just that it's a little early, but it's not too early. It's only been 10 years since I retired in 1987, and now it's 1997. Although I've retired in these 10 years, I've always done some small things for the army. I've never felt like I've left. It's just a change of position. Besides, if I hadn't retired, I wouldn't have met such a good seedling like you. I don't have any regrets. I have a successor." There was no helplessness, no pity. He just felt a little empty sometimes. Now that he had a successor, how could he feel empty? He would pass on everything he had learned to the next generation, and let the next generation continue to guard this territory. He had no more regrets. With this understanding, Yi Qian understood that what he knew today was the result of his hard work in the past. From the beginning of the purgatory training at the end of November until the winter break in Hainan, a total of 26 days of purgatory training. In less than half a year, Yi Qian was once again reborn. He successfully challenged one physical and mental limit after another. Under Principal Chen's constant pressure, Yi Qian met all 6 standards of endurance training. The 30-kilometer long-distance rapid march was 11 minutes earlier than Principal Chen's estimated time. He reached the passing standard for a Special Forces soldier, and even exceeded it. Sweat more in peacetime, bleed less in wartime. After such intensive training, Yi Qian understood the meaning of this sentence. From the second half of 1997 to the second half of 1998, Yi Qian continued intensive training for a year. His mind and body received a whole new level of training, allowing him to move unswervingly towards his goal. From the second year to the first half of the third year of high school, Yi Qian was about to graduate after sending off Yang Heng and the others. On the blackboard was the words, "Countdown to the college entrance examination." With each passing day, it would decrease by 1 day. The atmosphere in the class had always been tense. They were doing their best to prepare for the college entrance examination next year. This year, the results of the provincial first high school's college entrance exam were quite good. There were 12 students who entered Hua University and Shi University. Among them, there were even a few examinees who had been accepted by foreign universities. With heavy capital, no. One middle school in the province achieved the best results in the past years. They successfully suppressed the news of Yao Jing jumping off a building with their own abilities and did not let the reputation of the century-old school be tarnished. Yao Jing's suicide attempt had been brought up from mid-November last year until April this year. Even though she had ended up in the juvenile detention center, many parents still felt that the school was responsible for this and that it was the school that did not teach this student well. Just as Xia Jinyuan had said, Deputy Bureau Chief Yao and Mother Yao did not press charges. Mother Yao found a lawyer and prepared for about 3 days. Very soon, something unexpected happened. The Provincial Commission for Discipline Inspection suddenly implicated Mother Yao in the corruption case. It also exposed that she had forced a girl to leave for her daughter Yao Jing. The investigation by the Commission for Discipline Inspection resulted in Mother Yao and her daughter being imprisoned. Chapter 1058. Although Deputy Bureau Chief Yao was fine, he was more or less affected. He was transferred from the provincial government to a city. He no longer had the power he had before, and it was difficult for him to return to his previous peak. Yi Qian didn't pay much attention to these things. She focused on intensive training. Other than the 6 hours of sleep every night, the rest of her time was very full. After learning, she trained non-stop, one training after another. She crawled forward in the mud, flipped in the waves, ran and climbed non-stop. When the summer vacation came, she ran all over the world. She ran to Xia Jinyuan twice, but failed. He didn't even know where she was training, and there was no news of her. This result was not surprising to him. As a Special Forces soldier, they had only spent a short time together. It was impossible for them to be in a relationship all day long. They had the same pursuit, the same dream, and the same goal. Separation wouldn't make them feel tired because they knew that she and he were constantly working hard. In the winter of 1998, Yi Qian, a third-year high school student, sat in the classroom to discuss a math problem with Jiasen, Li Qian, and Yang Yi. She was improving, and so were Jiasen and the rest. Moreover, these 5 former roommates had all become good students in the grade. Whether it was a major exam or a minor exam, their individual results would always be in the top 15 of the grade. There were a total of 6 in the dormitory. One would always be at the top, and the other 5 would occupy the top 15 places in the grade. They had also become the school's legend. At this moment, Ms. Tong was smiling helplessly at Principal Chow. Even I, as a teacher, don't dare to look into Yi Jian's eyes. Her gaze is as sharp as a sword, scaring me so much that I don't dare to say anything harsh. Our school shouldn't pay too much attention to her. As long as her results are still there, everything is fine. Although Principal Chow didn't know what Yi Qian was doing in private, he was sure of one thing. Old Chun had said that her goal was to enter the military academy. Other than that, there was no other choice. West University called me again. They want to give the last direct enrollment spot to Yi Qian. You'll have to take the college entrance examination in the first half of next year. Why don't you talk to Yi Qian? Let her accept such a direct recruitment quota? Ever since last year's midterm exams, Tsinghua University and West University had been contacting the provincial first high school in order to snatch Yi Qian to their school. Heavy snow began to fall outside. The 1998 winter seemed to have arrived much earlier than the 1997 winter. The first snow was also much heavier than the 1997 winter. Holding a porcelain cup filled with hot water, Principal Chow pondered for a moment before saying, "We can't delay this any longer. We need Yi Qian to give us a clear answer. How about this afternoon? Tell her to come to my office for a chat." It was nearing the last midterm exam for the 3rd year of high school. It was time to give the school an answer regarding Yi Qian. Not only did Teacher Tong not dare to look into Yi Qian's eyes, but Principal Chow was also the same. There were a few times when he accidentally bumped into her, and he would be shocked by the sharpness in her eyes. With Principal Chow's help, Teacher Tong felt a little relieved and left the principal's office, waiting for noon to come. My college entrance exam application? Yi Qian, who was sitting in the principal's office, was slightly surprised. Isn't it only next year? Why do they have to apply now? She still didn't understand why the school wanted to know her college entrance exam application in advance. She also didn't know that Tsinghua University and West University were fighting for her. Principal Chao smiled and said, Tsinghua University and West University have always wanted to give you the direct enrollment quota. I'm asking you on behalf of the two schools. What do you think? Chapter 1059. Yi Qian didn't know that Tsinghua University and West University wanted to give her a direct admission spot. She always thought that this matter was over. After all, it had been more than a year since she last saw the teachers from Tsinghua University and West University. She didn't expect that this matter wasn't over yet. The schools didn't give her a reply either. After thinking for a while, Yi Qian smiled faintly and said, I can only thank the teachers from the two schools for thinking so highly of me. I don't plan on applying to Tsinghua University or West University, and I definitely don't plan on taking a direct admission. Her words surprised Teacher Tong. She quickly advised, Yi Qian, the opportunity is right in front of you. All you need to do is nod your head. Why don't you think about taking a direct admission? Tsinghua University and West University are the most famous universities in our country. They have many talents in the fields of science, academia, economics, and so on. It can be said that every student is proud to get into Tsinghua University or West University. I don't understand why you would give up an opportunity that others dream of. Is there some unspeakable addiction? Or do you have other plans? Thoughts of going abroad? If Yi Qian had plans to go abroad, Teacher Tong definitely wouldn't stop her. More importantly, she had never seen Yi Qian have any plans to go abroad. Lu Lizhen and Yang Yi, for example, had plans to go abroad in the second half of their second year of high school. If Yi Qian didn't plan on going abroad, then what was the reason? Principal Chao didn't ask immediately. His gaze was slightly dim, as if he was thinking about something. When he went to Fujian Town High School that year, Old Chen said, This child's goal is a little different, but she will definitely be willing to fight for the glory of our country. A little different goal? Just how different was Yi Qian's goal? You probably don't plan on going abroad. Principal Chao, who had been silent for a while, spoke. His voice was slightly restrained, and he spoke with a serious tone. Yi Qian, are you sure you want to give up on Tsinghua University and West University's direct admission spots? So easily giving up an opportunity that others dream of. He really wanted to know why Yi Qian would give up on it. Tsinghua University and West University, which family's child got in? They would set off firecrackers and throw banquets to celebrate. There were only 2 spots for direct recruitment from Tsinghua University and Shi University in the entire province. One spot was given to a boy from Class 2, and the other was waiting for Yi Qian's approval. Yi Qian had always been very clear about his goals. Without any hesitation, he smiled and said, Last year, when I found out that Tsinghua University and Shi University had direct enrollment quotas, I gave up. Or rather, I never considered those 2 schools. Shida University is one of the most famous institutions of higher learning in China and even in Asia. It has a history of over 100 years and has produced countless great people and academic masters. As for Tsinghua University, it is the only university in the history of our country to have been established as the nation's top institution of higher learning. It is a majestic institution, and a university like this is definitely the university that every student in the country dreams of attending. I'm very grateful to the teachers of the 2 schools for thinking so highly of me, but it's true that this is not my personal goal. Since the second year of junior high school, my goal has only been to work hard to get into the National Science University. After so many years, it hasn't changed. Principal Chow, Teacher Tong, I'm willing to give up the direct enrollment quota and give it to students who really need it and have the ability to enter the two universities. Yi Qian's words caused the office to fall silent. Teacher Tong's gaze was already sizing up Yi Qian from head to toe. She had heard Yi Qian say that he wanted to apply for the National Science University. Every year, there would be students from the century-old provincial first high school who were admitted to the military school. However, students who were admitted to the National Science University were extremely rare. There wouldn't even be one in a few years. Chapter 1060. If she remembered correctly, it had been 4 years since the last batch of students who got into the National University of Science and Technology. Plus, all of the students who got into the National University of Science and Technology were male. There wasn't a single female student. Yi Qian wanted to get into the National University of Science and Technology. She had taught a few batches of graduates, but this was the first time she heard a girl say that she wanted to get into the National University of Science and Technology. Teacher Tong looked at Yi Qian not because she was suspicious, but because she wanted to see if Yi Qian was really determined. She said she wanted to get into the National University of Science and Technology. With her current results, it wasn't difficult. On the other side, Principal Chow asked with interest, Yi Qian, is this your personal decision? Or did someone suggest that you give up on the two famous schools and get into the National University of Science and Technology? Old Chen was a retired soldier and took good care of Yi Qian. He raised her like she was his own daughter. If he had any suggestions, Yi Qian would definitely listen to them. In the past, I really didn't think about getting into the National University of Science and Technology. I didn't even dare to think about going to high school. Later, it was all thanks to Uncle Chen's advice that I didn't muddle through my days. I was also influenced by Uncle Chen. From then on, I set the National University of Science and Technology as my goal. It has never changed. This is the only university I want to get into. From the moment she set her goal, she had worked hard for this goal for so many years. She even put aside her hatred for Yi Jifan's family and worked hard to improve herself. Now, she was only half a year away from her goal. She had put in so much effort, and there was still a very important person waiting for her to get into the National University of Science and Technology and wear the military uniform. No matter how tempting the enrollment conditions of Tsinghua University and West University were, it couldn't shake her determination. Good, very good. Yi Qian, it has been 7 years since our school's last female student got into the National University of Science and Technology. We will wait for your good news in next year's college entrance exam. Principal Chow absolutely supported Yi Qian's decision. He even thought that she wouldn't have any problems getting into the National University of Science and Technology. Yi Qian, who could usually score 723 points and above, would have no problem applying to the National University of Science and Technology of China. If there was no problem with his score, there would be no problem with his body and character. Teacher Tong didn't say much. She just smiled and patted Yi Qian's shoulder. Her kind smile was filled with encouragement. She said softly, "Work hard and work towards your goal. One day, you will definitely get what you want. Teacher is also looking forward to seeing you walk into the military academy and put on that solemn and sacred military uniform." I will definitely get what I want. Yi Jian smiled. Her brows were as bright and beautiful as the sun. She was so confident and so proud. Her black eyes seemed to be filled with a vast sea of stars, resplendent and bright. Teacher Tong and Principal Chow were both waiting for the day when Yi Qian, the confident Yi Qian, would get what she wanted. Yi Qian, who gave up on the direct enrollment spot for Hua University and Shi University, caused another stir in the provincial first high school. In the end, the spot that he gave up didn't go to any other student, but was directly lost. When Mengwen found out, The usually proud and arrogant girl had tears in her eyes. She ran to Yi Qian's desk and supported herself with both hands. Her breathing was a little heavy as she asked, "Yi Qian, did you give up on the direct enrollment spot because you promised me last year that you wouldn't take up the direct enrollment spot?" After a year of being together, even Mengwen, who had always secretly competed with Yi Qian in her studies, had to admit that Yi Qian was definitely a girl who kept her promises. As long as she promised something, she would do it no matter how difficult it was. Chapter 1061. Seeing the guilt in Mengwen's eyes, Yi Qian couldn't help but laugh. "Why are you crying for no reason? I didn't promise you anything. I just wanted to tell you that I really didn't want the direct enrollment spots from the two schools. I didn't before, and of course I don't now." Then he sighed regretfully. "Sigh, I thought that after I gave up, the direct enrollment spots would be given to other students, who knew that they would be lost. It really wasn't because of me?" Mengwen quickly wiped the corners of her eyes and pursed her lips. "If it wasn't because of me, I wouldn't have apologized to you." Yi Qian shook his head. "It really wasn't because of you. Again, I think you should know that you don't have the face to make me give up the direct enrollment spots for you." After saying that, Yi Qian laughed to himself. Mengwen's face flushed red. She glared at Yi Qian in embarrassment and annoyance before swinging her ponytail and leaving proudly. After taking a few steps, she turned back and said in an awkward voice, "So what if you gave up? With your grades, you can choose any school in the country. Also, don't tell other students that I asked you those questions last year." This was the awkward and narrow-minded Mengwen, but she didn't have any bad intentions. With her, him, and them, her high school life was so rich and colorful. Even after graduation, she would still miss them often. She missed the laughter that she had never experienced in her previous life. With their existence, she had one less regret in this life. Yi Qian wanted to apply to the University of Science and Technology. In the end, she only told Unyielding and told her that she had already decided since the second year. This shocked Unyielding so much that her eyes widened at least twice. F***ck. She was still wondering if she could get into the same university as Jane Eyre. When she saw her grades, she thought that she would definitely succeed. But in the end it was like a bolt from the blue. Getting into a military school. Was it too late for her to work hard now? After being provoked, Unyielding studied even more fiercely, causing the entire dormitory to follow suit. When the final results for the third year of high school came out, all 5 girls were in the top 10 of the grade. Luckily, the 5 of them didn't take the exam in the same exam hall. Otherwise, with each one of their scores being 5 points lower than the other, the whole school would suspect cheating. Grade 12 Class 1's outstanding results left Grade 12 Class 2 and Grade 12 Class 3 in the dust. Grade 12 Class 1 took half of the top 50 places, and the other half took the top 100 places. This year's Grade 12 Class 1 graduates made Principal Chow faintly feel that this year's graduation number 1 high school. Or maybe they would forever be the strongest Grade 12 Class 1. At this time, Yi Qian's China's Sin's SSS a lot. Hers's SSS's STS. The rain was so heavy that walking became a problem. In order to avoid mudslides, she chose to camp at a high place and wait for the rain to stop before moving along the ridge. That's right, 500 kilometers. She needed to complete it within 15 days and reach Principal Chen's. Chapter 1062. If it was just a simple journey of 15 days, there would be no problem at all. But here came the main point. Not only were there poisonous snakes and leeches in this area, there were also drug and money trading scenes. Principal Chun said that there were often fights in this area, and sometimes there were even border and drug enforcement officers. She had not encountered drug trading scenes or border and drug enforcement officers yet, but she had seen plenty of poisonous snakes and leeches. Leeches were especially common during rainy seasons. No matter how tightly bandaged her body was, she had already been bitten twice on her neck. By the time she felt pain in her neck, it was usually full of blood. With a slap, its black and slippery body, which was at least twice the size of a leech, had already been sucked until it was round and round. With a military dagger, she could see the two twisted halves of its body. The bright red blood disappeared as soon as it was washed away by the rain. After dealing with the leeches, there would still be giant pythons. This type of snake was usually not a problem as long as one avoided it, but if one really encountered one, it was inevitable that one would be shocked. Looking at the python that was entrenched with the ancient vines, Yi Qian had to pay attention to her surroundings while keeping an eye on it. When the rain stopped, the python began to leave the ancient vines and slithered into the depths of the forest. In the rainforest, humans could also become python food. The rain was still dripping. Yi Qian put away the raincloth and wiped away the traces she left behind. She took the compass and continued on her way. At around 4 in the afternoon, there was suddenly the sound of dogs barking not far away. Yi Qian did not hesitate at all. She climbed up a tree with both hands and held her breath to prevent being discovered by the dogs. Dogs had a very sensitive sense of smell. When Yi Qian heard the dogs barking from afar, her heart skipped a beat. She was not afraid of the border police's drug detection dogs, but she was afraid of encountering drugs. The dogs that were used to prevent the border police from trading. Without stopping on a tree, Yi Qian carefully maintained her balance and stepped on a branch. Then she slowly jumped onto a tree in front of her. If she walked on top, even if the dogs smelled her, she would have enough time to escape. Soon, a group of people in camouflage walked into her sight. The light was too dim and it had just rained. The mist in the rainforest was thick, so Yi Qian could not immediately determine if the camouflage was the border police or someone else. "Captain Liu, the aura has disappeared," someone said in a low voice. Then, he took out a piece of cloth for the sniffer dog to sniff. After a while, the man who spoke said, something's wrong with the scent." Of course, something was wrong. The people chasing after her were not the same person. Wrong target. He went south. This is the north. Their figures were hidden behind the leaves of the rainforest. Yi Qian could only hear them whispering a few words before the sniffer dog barked again and headed north. Avoiding these specially trained dogs was also a necessary skill for a special forces soldier. Yi Qian stayed still in the tree for at least an hour. When he heard no more barking, he turned on the dim light and unfolded the military map. She needed to pinpoint her exact location. She had just heard the border police say that they should be chasing after the target, and her appearance had led the anti-drug dog to the wrong target. After checking her location, Yi Qian put the map back into the waterproof bag. She quickly jumped down from the tree with the sharp dagger in her mouth. It was past 5 in the afternoon, and the sky was already dark. Yi Qian used the luminous guide to move in the right direction again. She still needed to march for another 4 hours. Chapter 1063. Yi Qian had all the necessary equipment for a night march. Not only did he have night gear, but he also had equipment for individual combat. Personal protection, survival protection, weapons, and night vision equipment were all on Yi Qian. They were even more well-equipped than the anti-narcotics police at the border that they encountered at around 4 o'clock. Yi Qian fixed the night vision goggles and carried the domestic QBU sniper rifle with a caliber of 5.8 mm and an effective shooting range of 1,000 meters. He was expected to arrive at tonight's shelter by 9 o'clock in the evening. The road she was taking now was Xia Jinyuan's wilderness survival route. The training she went through during the winter break was also the training that Xia Jinyuan had gone through. There was no change at all. Tonight's resting place was also where he used to rest. It was a man-made cave that was not wide, but it was enough for her to sleep tonight. The 4-hour walk was extremely difficult. At around 7 o'clock in the evening, it started raining heavily again. Fortunately, it was winter and there was no thunder or lightning. Otherwise, she would have to be careful of being struck by lightning. After walking for about an hour, Yi Qian saw a piece of cloth that was caught by thorns in the green world. Like a slingshot, Yi Qian instantly dashed behind a tree and slowly approached the bush. Yi Jian narrowed her eyes slightly after taking off the torn cloth to take a look. The cloth that had been washed by the rain still had a faint smell of blood. Looking at the situation in this area, a large area of bushes had been trampled down. Judging from the area that had been trampled down, there were no less than 5 people staying here. Yi Qian then looked at an unknown tree and saw traces of a newly cut branch. He then looked at the cloth that had a faint smell of blood. There were sewing locks on both sides of the cloth. It did not look like it was torn from a shirt, but more like it was torn from the corner of a pants. He then picked up a few small branches that had been cut off and a small pile of freshly cut bark. There was blood, fabric at the corner of a pants, freshly cut branches, and freshly cut bark. Someone's leg was injured and they had to walk with their legs spread. The traces left behind were not erased. Either they were in a hurry, or they did not have the awareness to erase the traces. The border police they had encountered before could be ruled out. They would not have left such obvious traces. Even if they had rested midway, they would have smoothed it out when they left. No one was injured. At least when she saw the small team, no one was injured. It can't be, right? You're so lucky that you've bumped into some of the people thereafter? Yi Qian muttered softly. He put the torn cloth back in its original position and then made a slight change. He tied a knot. Then, he found some gravel elsewhere and placed it in a way that the armed police could understand. After everything was done, Yi Qian erased the traces he had left behind, put on his raincoat and marched again. About 10 minutes later, the sound of dogs barking could be heard from the mountains. Not long after, a group of border anti-narcotics police wearing camouflage raincoats appeared where Yi Qian had stopped. Captain Liu, over here. An armed police officer in charge of reconnaissance pointed at the cloth tied to a bush, and then pointed at the gravel under the cloth. Slipknot number of people. Our people have been here. A man who was not burly, even thin, walked over. He was not of good height, but his whole body was thin and cold. He removed the slipknot with his slightly thick fingers and looked at the gravel on a few wide leaves. He pondered for a few seconds and said, "It's not one of our people. Someone discovered it and left a mark to guide us." Chapter 1064. Not one of our people? Could it be one of our patrol brothers? Doesn't look like it. Lu Dui took off the cloth and put it to the sniffer dog's nose to sniff. He saw the sniffer dog running in the direction where Yi Jian disappeared. Lu Dui quickly raised his hand, and a group of 7 people quickly followed. It wasn't one of their patrol brothers, and it wasn't one of their people either. Someone had been here before and had discovered the abnormality here. They had left some clues for them. Perhaps it could be understood that someone was helping them. Who was helping them? It was so late at night and it was raining. Who would appear in this rainforest where drug dealers roamed and danger lurked everywhere? They couldn't be sure if it was one of their people, and they couldn't be sure if the person who left the clues was safe. They didn't erase the traces of the drug dealers, but instead left it for them to discover. Perhaps it was safe for them. It was already late at night, and the border police pursuing the drug dealers were still walking in the dense rainforest with their sniffing dogs. The rain-soaked leaves swept across their bodies, faces and hands, leaving behind rainwater and small cuts on their faces and hands. Yi Qian, who was walking along the mountain ridge, didn't stop. At this moment, she stepped on the dense shrubs and walked in a world of green. Even the rainwater had turned into green lines, splashing down in front of her eyes. There was no light in the rainforest at night. As she walked through the uneven growth of the forest, Her military boots stepped on the shrubs. Even the sound of her walking was muffled by the sound of the rain. Did they take the same route? I can see the traces they left behind along the way. Bending down, Yi Jian pushed aside the low bushes and leaves, leaving a clear mark on the green leaves, which were left on the moist mountain soil. She smiled slightly and held the sniper rifle in her hand. She took out a sterile gauze from the first aid kit and tied a knot on the shrubs. As long as the border police didn't give up on the search, they would definitely find the clues she left behind. When he found out that he was going to take the enhanced survival route that Xia Jinyuan had trained him, Uncle Chen even joked that he would be like Major Xia when he encountered a group of drug dealers who were in the middle of a transaction. Xia Jinyuan's 15-day march ended with 2 extra days, making it 17 days. They spent 2 days following the drug dealers to their manufacturing site and inadvertently helped the border police force to destroy a large drug manufacturing site. He encountered them, but he didn't expect her to encounter them as well. The only difference was that this group of people had already been discovered and were now on the run. After leaving behind the markings, Yi Qian continued to carry the heavy sniper rifle on his back and walked alone in the endless forest. There was not a trace of fear on her face. She walked extremely calmly and fearlessly. She walked on the ridge that Xia Jinyuan had once walked on without any hesitation. On a mountain road about 20 kilometers away from Yi Qian, the group of 5 had no choice but to stop running because of the rain. They hid under the leaves to take shelter from the rain. Brother Hong, there are still dozens of kilometers to go. When can our people come to help us? The person who spoke in Mandarin with a local accent. He spoke very quickly and looked around as he spoke. From his expression, it was obvious that he was afraid. For anyone, the fear of the unknown was present at night. Walking on the same mountain road during the day and at night would greatly change one's mental and psychological state. For these fugitives, not only did they have to face the unknown dangers of the night, but they also had to face the danger of being caught at any time. Chapter 1065. A bald man held a makeshift walking stick with one hand. He used his mouth to catch the rainwater and said, "Soon. My men will only come after we pass this part of the road. Don't worry and follow me. You can make as much money as you want in the future." The 5 of them had one thing in common: they were all bald. The leader, who was called Brother Hong, had a special identity. He was the breakthrough point of a big case for the anti-narcotics police. He had successfully broken out of prison when he went out for medical treatment. He had done it very easily, which surprised Brother Hong himself. The other 4 bald men who followed him had just been released from prison a few days ago. For their own dreams of getting rich, they once again walked together with Brother Hong, who they had known for a long time. They only hoped that they could make a fortune in the future. Brother Hong's foot had been hit by a bullet. The bullet was still stuck in his bone and could not be removed. He had only tied it up with his prison uniform and did not do anything simple. He had been on the run all this time. After he finished speaking, he lowered his eyes. A fierce light flashed in his eyes. These people, none of them could be left alive. When he escorted him to the place where his brothers would pick him up, all of them would have to be dealt with. He had promised them well, but in reality, he was just drawing a hungry pancake. After resting for less than 10 minutes, the group of 5 had to continue walking. No matter how tired they were, they had to continue. If they did not, they might lose their lives. The nerves and bodies of the 5 people were extremely tense. Facing the heavy rain and the dark rainforest, fear spread like radiation in their brains. They endured tremendous psychological pressure and hurried on. The fugitives had to continue no matter how scared they were. Yi Qian, who was marching on a rainy night, also had to continue walking. 4 hours and 2 hours had passed. They were 1 hour late to the place where they could rest, which meant that they had 1 less hour of sleep tonight. They could only move forward to reach their destination. The rain became heavier again. Yi Qian wiped the rainwater off his night vision goggles. Like a ghost in the rainforest, he passed through the trees and shrubs. Yi Qian, who only had one locator on him, had not spoken to anyone for a few days since he entered the rainforest. He was either faced with poisonous snakes or leeches. Furthermore, he was drenched in the rain every day. Yi Qian's behavior was very normal. There were no abnormalities. He maintained a calm mind to calmly analyze the things that he encountered and the environment he faced. Just like now, normal people would have an instinctive fear in the face of darkness, scream in the face of danger, and faint in the face of something that suddenly appeared. He would think of dangers that he wouldn't have thought of during the day, and he would also bear psychological pressure that he didn't have during the day. Most people would not deliberately try to win. It was very likely that they would choose to avoid it. Usually, they would think, "I won't take the mountain road at night anymore." This was the thought of a normal person, the most normal thought. But for Yi Qian, for the special forces, there was no turning back. They could only move forward. No matter how scared they were, they had to move forward. Not only that, they had to overcome their fear of the dark. They could not let fear overtake them. This was Yi Qian's progress. Step by step, he made solid progress. There were no shortcuts. He had to rely on himself to overcome one obstacle after another. Using his own hard work in exchange for a different life, Yi Qian had used his own blood and sweat to lay the foundation for his future achievements. Wind could not shake him, rain could not stain him. After more than a year of intensive training, Yi Qian's mental and physical qualities were far superior to his peers. Marching at night had become an essential part of Yi Qian's daily routine. When he encountered difficulties, he would overcome them with determination, and when he encountered danger, he would resolve it calmly. Chapter 1066. For example, right now, facing the 5 figures resting in front of him, Yi Qian quietly hid behind a tree, using the leaves as cover to observe their movements. The 5 of them were all bald. They sat together, and from time to time, it could be seen from their faces that they were all tense. Their eyes kept darting around, and they looked restless. These people were probably the people the border police were looking for. The leaves rustled from the rain, and their voices intermittently reached Yi Qian's ears. "Brother Hong, how much longer do we have? Can you at least give us a definite answer? We've been walking for a day, and we still haven't arrived. There's a lot of rain and snakes in the mountains, and we're all tired and hungry. If this goes on, we'll collapse before we even get here." "Yes, Brother Hong. Give us a definite answer. Sometimes you say they're just ahead, and sometimes you say they're not far away. We've been walking for a day, and we're all worried and uneasy. Brother Hong, are you sure someone will come to pick us up? Brother Hong, the 4 of us are sincerely following you. Once you tell us, someone will come to pick us up. We'll follow you without hesitation. You've seen our sincerity, but Brother Hong, you should at least show us your sincerity, right?" The 4 bald men spoke one after another as they surrounded the man in the middle. Yi Qian didn't immediately move away. He quietly waited for the man in the middle to reply. The sound of the rain was very loud. In order not to miss any sound, the bold Yi Qian gently moved forward about half a meter, and then slowly lay down in the bushes. She glanced around faintly to avoid being noticed by others. Brother Hong's leg was infected, and he had a slight fever. Hearing that the 4 of them wanted to hear his reply, Brother Hong sighed. "Do the 4 of you not believe me? We really need to hurry, and my people are indeed waiting for me to return. Why didn't I ask my people to come to the hospital to pick me up? It's very simple. I sent a letter out when I was in prison, and I'll return to the village one day. I'll continue to lead my brothers to make a fortune. If you trust me, you can continue to follow me. If you don't, I won't force you to stay. You can choose to leave now." The 4 Baldies were all arrested because they were helping others to carry drugs. Why did they follow Brother Hong? It was because they had heard of Brother Hong's name before they were arrested. He knew that this person possessed a poison vein. But now that no one had come to help them after so long, they couldn't help but wonder if the poison vein in Brother Hong's hands had all been wiped out by the armed police. After he finished speaking, a younger bald man suddenly said excitedly, "Brother Hong, wait. You mean to take us to the place where you left the big goods? You'll take us there directly? Of course, the four of you sent me out. How can I not show some sincerity?" Brother Hong's Mandarin also had a local accent. It was a Sichuan accent that could not be distinguished. He sighed. He really did look sincere. The young man seemed to know something, and his expression became more and more excited. Yi Qian could only hear him saying, "Thank you, Brother Hong. Thank you, Brother Hong. I'll follow Brother Hong from now on. Thank you, Brother Hong. Thank you, Brother Hong." Brother Hong waved his hand. "You guys risked everything to save me. I definitely have to thank you. I'll rest for a few minutes first. We'll continue our journey later." Okay. You rest, you rest." The young man looked as if he had seen a rain of money. He immediately treated Brother Hong as if he was his ancestor. Chapter 1067. His actions confused the other three. At least, Yi Qian was still confused when he saw them wiping the rainwater off their faces. When the younger bald man beckoned them to the side and whispered a few words to them, they all became excited. Yi Qian, who focused his attention on Brother Hong, smirked. The four of them turned their backs to him and whispered. Brother Hong, who was resting with his eyes closed, slowly opened his eyes and glanced over. Yi Qian could see the obvious murderous intent on his face. They didn't leave, and neither did Yi Qian. This route was the fastest route in the entire rainforest. If she went off the right path, she wouldn't be able to reach the campsite tonight. 10 minutes later, Brother Hong stood up with the help of his crutches. Wearing the raincoat he bought in the market, he continued walking. Yi Qian followed beside them. Occasionally, he could hear Brother Hong instructing the other four which way they should go. Yi Qian couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Just like her. The border between the two countries had always been the area with the most drug trafficking. It was normal to encounter drug trafficking in the rainforest. It was close to the end of the year. Criminals from all walks of life wanted to make a fortune before the new year. Drug trafficking was risky, but it was the easiest way to make money. People who wanted to make a fortune every day would take the risk. If they were always on the same side, Yi Qian still hoped that the border anti-narcotics police could find them as soon as possible. Half an hour later, Lu Dui led the team to the place where the five of them were resting. "Look around. Let De Jiao rest for a while." De Jiao was the name of the anti-narcotics dog. It was a member of the team. Lu Dui, on the other hand, was looking around to see if there were any new marks. Soon, his gaze fell on a bunch of vines that had been deliberately wrapped around a few times. He looked around carefully and saw the marks left by Yi Jian. At the bottom of the tree was a newly carved arrow. Under the arrow was a 5-pointed star. Lu Dui's eyes narrowed. He reached out and touched the moss growing on the roots of the tree. Sure enough, he saw a very small 5-pointed star. At the bottom was a small sword and the number 1. They really were on the same side. They knew the border anti-narcotics police's secret code. How could there be someone else? The higher-ups had arranged for them to be the only group to keep a close eye on the situation. It was impossible for there to be other brothers keeping a close eye on the situation. Furthermore, it was even more impossible for them to keep a close eye on the situation alone. What was that all about? Who else was following him? Captain Lu erased the traces left behind and led the team forward. They were not too far away from the target, but they were not too close either. He didn't pay much attention to who was in front of him. As long as he was sure that it was one of his brothers, he felt a little more at ease. Let's see if there are any markings. An hour later, Lu Dui saw a set of signals. There was a row of 1 engraved at the bottom of the route. The first 1 was slightly longer, and the last 4 1s were slightly shorter, but the length was the same. As for the string of 1s below, there was no pattern to it. Lu Dui couldn't help but smile when he saw this. Interesting. Using numbers to transmit information. The longest 1 represented Brother Hong. The next 4 1s meant that there were 4 people around him. The last string of 1s meant that Brother Hong had reinforcements. The brothers in front of them seemed to be following them very closely. They clearly heard everything that Brother Hong said. Although this provided them with timely information about Brother Hong's whereabouts, if they followed so closely, they wouldn't be able to provide immediate support if there was any danger. Chapter 1068. Fortunately, they could confirm that Brother Hong and the other 4 didn't carry any guns or ammunition. At most, they had a dagger. They couldn't follow too closely. They were still casting a long line to catch a big fish. The brothers in front had to take care of themselves. After that, Captain Lu received more information. While they were still guessing the other party's identity, they didn't find any clues left behind in the next 2 hours. They didn't even find any traces left behind by the target. There were no signs of fighting. Did that mean the brother in front had left alone again? But because he saw it, he left a mark to see if the border police would notice. And if he left this signal, he could guess whether the border police would see it or not. This brother probably guessed the identity of the Brother Hong, who was wearing a prisoner's uniform. How could a normal person wear a prisoner's uniform and walk away? No more marks? Captain Lu, there are no signs of fighting. Nothing should have happened. After the scout finished checking the surroundings, he wiped the rain off his face and said in a low voice, either he left alone first, or he didn't plan on leaving any more marks. Captain Lu pulled his rain hat down a little and glanced at the similarly green world. He said in a low voice, it should be the brothers from other units who are involved in wilderness survival. They noticed the situation and gave us a heads up. There are no signs of fighting. Don't worry about it. Keep moving forward. Yi Qian didn't follow them. She had just arrived at the place where she could rest for the night. Naturally, she didn't need to follow them. Moreover, she felt that the border police seemed to be deliberately lagging behind, following them at a moderate pace. In the end, there wasn't even the sound of the sniffer dog. It was as if the barking earlier had deliberately disturbed Brother Hong and made them run for their lives. The man-made hole was just big enough for one person to curl up and rest. Yi Jian already had experience in sleeping outside at night. She knew what the first step was and what the second step was. First, he used the rain curtain to block the wind and rain. Then, he laid out the moisture-proof mattress and sprinkled some repellent powder around the entrance of the cave. After the simple protective measures were done, he placed the most important sniper rifle inside the cave. Finally, he could go to sleep before 11 o'clock. The rain fell on the rain curtain. The pitter-patter didn't disturb Yi Qian's sleep, but she was quickly woken up. Someone was still moving forward in the rain. Their footsteps were fast but not messy. Their breathing was relatively stable. Yi Qian's mind flashed with the border police team they had met earlier. Calculating the time, it was still less than half an hour before Brother Hong and the others left. He had really calculated the time and maintained a distance of less than half an hour. Yi Qian did not interfere with the border police anymore. They must have seen the message she left behind. If she stayed any longer, she might confuse them even more and tell them that the target they were pursuing had reinforcements, so there was no need for her to leave any more messages. Yi Qian only slept for 6 hours. At 5 o'clock in the morning, Yi Qian had already packed his luggage and set off again in the humid rainforest. At 7 o'clock in the morning, he arrived at the teleportation coordinate. He turned on the locator and sent his location to Principal Chun. This was the military's positioning coordinate. As long as the signal from the locator was sent out, it would be able to accurately pinpoint his location. Yi Qian took her first sip of water since she woke up in the morning and ate a piece of hardtack. She only had 5 minutes to rest before her slender figure entered the endless rainforest in the blink of an eye. After walking for about 15 kilometers, Yi Qian hugged his sniper rifle and jumped into a nearby bush like a slingshot. There was the smell of gunpowder and blood. Chapter 1069. Yi Qian was now more sensitive to the smell of rust in the blood and the faint mixture of gases in the smoke. Even if there was a faint odor in the humid air, Yi Qian would still be able to detect it. Yi Qian, who had hidden herself well, didn't immediately move. Only when she thought she could get closer to the smell of blood did she cautiously move forward. It wasn't strange for the smell of blood to appear in the rainforest, but if there was also the smell of smoke, then she needed to be careful. Especially when she was walking on the mountain ridge between the two countries. Yesterday, she even encountered a group of escaped drug dealers, so she needed to be even more careful. If it was any other time, Yi Qian would judge whether or not she should go and investigate based on the situation, but this time, she had to go and investigate. Brother Hong had previously said that he had reinforcements and wanted to kill the 4 bald men who were escaping with him. This was enough to prove that he had reinforcements and that someone had helped him get rid of the 4 bald men. And there was only a small group of border police officers chasing after them. If they really went against the reinforcements of Brother Hong, Yi Qian wasn't sure how high the chances of the border police officers winning were. She still didn't feel at ease, so she still needed to go and confirm. Yi Jianjian walked to a side of the mountain that was covered by shrubs due to the trees growing in the shade. Yi Jianjian saw a pair of crooked feet looming in the bushes. After the battle, the bushes were filled with the smell of death. The surroundings were very quiet, not even the sound of insects or birds. It was a deathly silence. Yi Qian completely hid herself in the bushes as she moved forward. When she got close to the location of the pair of feet, Yi Qian let out a sigh of relief. There was a black, fireball-like tattoo on the neck of the deceased. Just from this point alone, she was sure that this wasn't the border police officers. In the bushes, Yi Qian picked up a bullet. It was China's own 5.8mm bullet, used in the Type 87, which was the rifle that the border police officers were issued. There were a total of 6 corpses around the area. Their necks had a tattoo that looked like a fireball. They were all killed by Type 87 assault rifle bullet. Looking at the time, the gunfight that took place here was about 3 hours ago. It was now 8:40 in the morning, and the gunfight would take place around 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning. There were 3 hours between the gunfight and the gunfight. Based on the soldiers' speed, as long as they kept moving forward, they would be at least 35 kilometers away from her. However, based on the current situation, she was afraid that she would be. Before Yi Qian could finish his thoughts, a bird flew out of the mountain and soared into the sky. 1 second, Yi Qian was still deep in thought. The next second, she plunged into the rainforest and headed towards the direction where the mountain birds had fled. Although it was not raining today, the air in the mountains was extremely humid. Yi Qian climbed to a high spot and climbed up the tree like an agile monkey. Under the cover of the leaves, he saw a figure running left and right among the branches and leaves. He picked up the sniper rifle and adjusted the scope to the maximum. From the scope, he could still see a figure chasing after him. Bang! Bang! 2 consecutive shots were fired. The figure running at the front fired 2 blind shots behind him, trying to force the opponent to hide temporarily and buy time for himself to escape. The figure chasing after him was the border police officers. The one who fired the shot was the one Yi Qian saw a familiar black fireball tattoo on his collar. Without hesitation, he aimed the sniper rifle at the opponent's right hand. She didn't need to open or close one eye to shoot. She only needed to focus and aim at the target to accurately complete the shot. Chapter 1070. The gunshot rang out again. The man with the tattoo fell backward from the recoil of the sniper rifle bullet. The bullet pierced through his shoulder, and even the gun in his hand was thrown into the air. The man fell into the bushes, and then they heard the man's painful groan after he was shot. The border police had already leaped onto the tree. They aimed their Type 87 rifles in front of them and quickly searched for the shooter. Yi Qian had already put away his sniper rifle and nimbly came down from the tree. The man who was shot in the shoulder was in so much pain that he was struggling in the bushes. Although Yi Qian was completely sure that the pursuing police was the scout he saw last night, he didn't immediately expose himself. Instead, he chose to take a detour and quietly approach. Yi Qian, who was on guard and approaching at the same time, walked to a distance where the target on the ground could hear the conversation between him and the scout. He lowered his voice and said calmly, "One of us. One of us? A woman? A female soldier? Why was there a woman? A female soldier?" He quickly turned around and pointed his gun at the source of the sound. The scout saw the leaves about 2 meters away shake slightly, but he didn't see anyone. Yi Qian didn't approach and was still observing. The scout was the same. He carefully looked around and asked in a low voice, "Unit number. I saw you guys yesterday. The leader is surnamed Liu. You are the scout," Yi Qian said and reported his unit number. More than 80% of the scout's suspicions were eliminated. He then heard the female soldier say calmly, "You guys were chasing a fugitive called Brother Hong who was still wearing a prisoner's uniform. There were 4 people with him. I found a few dead bodies in front of us. They all had the same black tattoo on their neck. Otherwise, I wouldn't have suddenly opened fire." The two began to approach each other. One was on guard above and to the right, while the other was on guard below and to the left. Yi Qian was the first to salute the scout. "I was doing wilderness survival training when I accidentally saw you guys chasing Brother Hong and the others. I was afraid that you would arouse unnecessary suspicion. In the end, I left a message under the tree root saying that Brother Hong would have reinforcements. I didn't leave it behind. When I was resting at night, I saw you guys again. I slept through the night. I didn't expect you guys to still be chasing." Only then did the scout put away the last 20% of his suspicions. He was familiar with Yi Qian's aura. It belonged to a soldier. He had the aura of a steel gun. After returning Yi Qian's salute, he wiped the sweat that had reached his eyebrows. His slightly tanned face with a friendly smile and said, "So you really are comrades in arms. It's just that we didn't expect it's a female soldier. Thank you for your help just now. This is a whistle that was sent to inform us. If we didn't catch up to him, all our preparations would have been in vain." He didn't say anything else, but he knew that Yi Qian knew. Yi Qian did not ask further. Everyone had their own duties. She had no right to know their deployment. He then pointed at the figure moving within the black tree. His tone contained a bit of killing intent as he said softly, "Directly deal with it? S. Kill him on the spot. There's no way to bring him back." The scout finished his sentence and shot at the struggling figure. It wasn't that they were cruel. They had to do it. Being kind to them was being cruel to their own people. Being on the opposite side, they naturally had to choose the side that was beneficial to their own people. Chapter 1071. Seeing the body twitch a few times in the bushes, the scout retracted his rifle and turned to Yi Qian. "If you want to continue forward, I'm afraid you'll have to change your route or rest here for a while. We have troops ahead." If they changed the route, they would have to take a long detour, and resting in the same place would also waste time. No matter which way it was, Yi Qian did not want to choose. After pondering for a while, he said, "I need to reach the pass in Laos. This route is the one we have planned. I need to go around it within the specified time. Can you contact Liu Dui? I'll pass through your deployment area. At this time, the scout's gaze fell on the Type 88 sniper rifle in Yi Qian's hands. His eyes lit up. Sniper. The female soldier in front of him was actually a sniper? They had 2 sniper rifles on their side, but after scouting, there was another position that was best equipped with another sniper. If this female soldier in front of him agreed, it would not work. If the female soldier agreed, they would have to see if the command center agreed. The scout shook his head and said, "I can't answer you. If you need to pass through our deployment area, Lu Dui can talk to you. Can you tell me your serial number and name? I'm afraid we'll have to verify your identity when we get back." Talking to Lu Dui of the Border Police Force was a solution. Yi Qian did not hesitate to tell the scout his name. "I can contact my commander directly. My name can confirm my identity. As for my serial number, sorry, it's not convenient to say." She really did not have a serial number. She could only use her name as proof. Every soldier had their own serial number, just like their ID number. It was unique and would not be repeated. Seeing this, the scout did not ask again. After cleaning up the scene, the two immediately set off. After walking less than 5 kilometers, the scout signaled Yi Qian to hide and wait. He needed to leave alone and ask Lu Dui to come over. Even though there was no problem with Yi Qian's identity, the scout did not bring him to the command center for safety reasons. Instead, he brought him to the area guarded by the armed police force, just in case. Yi Qian already felt several gazes on him. He did not feel strange, but he had to be more vigilant during the operation. The brother who helped us last night was a female soldier? Lu Dui was a little surprised. Has her identity been confirmed? It was actually a female soldier? A female soldier who trained alone in the wild? He had never heard of a female soldier training alone in the wild, let alone in such a dangerous place. The scout nodded. Confirmed, there's no problem. She's now within our security perimeter, waiting for you, Captain Lu. She needs to complete the field marching training within the stipulated time. After that, her eyes lit up and she whispered, "There's another piece of good news, Captain Lu. She's a sniper." Sniper? A ready-made sniper rifle? Captain Lu's eyes lit up. And it's a Type 88 sniper rifle, rarely seen. "Captain Lu, should we talk to her?" Captain Lu, whose eyes were also shining, suppressed the surprise of the unexpected harvest and said in a low voice, "Let's contact the main force first. It'll be easier for us if the main force agrees. We still have to let the main team confirm her identity. It's better to be careful." They were just short of a sniper, and now a sniper had appeared. It was a bit of a coincidence. "Yi Qian? Are you sure the female soldier's name is Yi Qian?" The voice from the radio was even more surprised than when Captain Lu had heard it. He continued to ask, "Her skin is very fair, her skills and marksmanship are quite good, and her facial features are easy to recognize." Chapter 1072. Captain Lu calmed down a little. He didn't know Yi Qian's serial number, so he wasn't sure. Now that he heard Chief Su's tone, it seemed like they knew each other, so he instantly felt hopeful. "If it's the Yi Qian I know, then we must make her stay," Chief Su said quickly and calmly. "I'll immediately confirm her identity with her regiment. I'll get back to you in 2 minutes. Make her stay first." Yi Qian, the 6th Squad actually met Yi Qian. The Yi Qian they fought together with in Australia, the one who killed Red Scorpion in the air vent. If it was her, the 6th Squad had to make her stay. 3 minutes later, Yi Qian saw Captain Lu, who was wearing a ghillie suit, walk over. Captain Lu looked at the young female soldier in the jungle camouflage uniform. Recalling Chief Su's solemn instructions, Captain Lu walked over and saluted Yi Qian with the same respect. Female Special Forces soldier. A godlike existence in the military. Someone who was even more powerful than the male soldiers. He had to be respected. Not only did he have to be respectful, Even his words were respectful. He reported the serial numbers of all his units, briefly introduced himself, and said, "Chief Su said that we must make you stay. He also said that with you joining us, our mission will be much smoother." Who? Chief Su? She didn't remember knowing a soldier with the surname Su. The communication hasn't been terminated yet. If you have any questions, you can ask Chief Su for confirmation. Captain Lu was really hoping that Yi Jian would agree immediately. He had intentionally let Brother Hong out so that he could catch a big fish in one fell swoop. Before he let Brother Hong out, the team had already made a very detailed deployment and arrangement based on the information they had. Who would have thought that they would catch a big fish, but they did not expect it to be so big. 3 sentry posts required 3 snipers, and with Yi Qian, it was just right. Yi Qian saw how cautious Captain Lu was and felt a little apologetic. He quickly said, "Then I'll call Chief Su first. I'm sorry, I can't remember who Chief Su is right now." "Yes, of course." Lu Dui saw that she didn't refuse immediately and hurriedly led the way. When Yi Qian heard Chief Commander Su's voice, it didn't take him more than 3 seconds to remember who he was. "I haven't worked with you since the last time I came back. I didn't expect that after a few years, the opportunity to work with you would come again." They hadn't seen each other for a few years, and Su Yu had already become the captain of the Border Defense Corps. When he heard Yi Qian's voice, although it had changed a little, it still matched the voice in his memory. Yi Qian also smiled and said, "I was wondering when I would get to know a head commander Su. It turns out that you're really an acquaintance." Su Yu said, "Ever since the Vietnamese Red Scorpion was killed, Laos has been developing and expanding rapidly in the past few years. Hong Go, who we've been chasing, has been arrogant in the Mekong River for 2 years. We've also been keeping an eye on him for 2 years." She first explained the ins and outs of the situation to Yi Qian in a simple manner, then brought up the current problem. "There are 3 sentry posts. We have 2 snipers here, and there's still 1 more sentry post that we can't deal with. To ensure that nothing goes wrong, I'd like you to be in charge of one of the sentry posts. I've just asked your regiment commander. He said that it's up to you to decide, and the army won't interfere. What do you think?" Chapter 1073. Su Yu was discussing with Yi Qian. On the other side, Lu Tuan said to Commissar Yen, "I don't know if Miss Jian is lucky or unlucky. Old Chun took her to the wilderness for training, and she actually encountered a large operation by the border police. 2 snipers aren't enough, we need 3. Little Miss Jian is involved in a big operation. I think these actual battles will be helpful for Miss Jian in the future. She hasn't enlisted yet, but she has already accumulated a few military merits. Next year's college entrance exam is the most important moment. It will be very beneficial to accumulate military merit." Although Commissar Yen was worried, he calmly analyzed it and felt that it was a good thing. Since she had chosen the military, she had to live up to the military uniform she was wearing. Once she wore it, fear and cowardice would become a thing of the past. She would be fearless in the face of danger. Lu Tuan nodded and sighed. 18 years old. Many of the recruits in our team this year are 18 years old. Compared to them, Miss Jian has already come a long way. Some of these 18-year-old recruits won't be as successful as Miss Jian even after they retire. Ha ha ha, old Lu, I realize that Yi Qian's college entrance exam is getting closer and closer. You're getting more and more worried. Commissar Yen couldn't help but laugh when he heard his old comrade sigh again. Miss Jian will have no problem with the college entrance exam. She has a good mentality and physical fitness. Even if she gets sick on the day of the exam, she will be able to survive. There was a hint of teasing in his words. When it came to Regiment Commander Lu, he pretended to be scared. "Don't mention my past. Back then, I fell into the water and caught a cold after falling into the water. Who are you calling mentally weak? He couldn't help but laugh. Miss Jian is indeed much stronger than I was at that time. I have high hopes for her, I'm afraid she has already agreed. Actual battles are rare. It is indeed a good thing for Yi Qian to encounter them. Using her sniper rifle to protect the border police is also a good thing. With a gun, she can protect the country and keep her comrades safe. Life can't be changed, it can't be changed. With a gun, she can protect the country and keep her comrades safe. Yi Qian understood this on the first day of the 4-year training program. After a few actual battles, he had a deeper understanding of it. Yi Qian looked at the entire deployment and knew what the scouts had found out. His expression turned serious. Their firepower is very strong. We can't rule out the possibility that they have heavy weapons. Let the advance group find out more about the situation in the village. It's better to know more about it. If they were to directly kick the enemy's nest, they would have to have a clear idea of the level of firepower. Lu Dui's finger pointed at a location on the combat map. This is the machine gun point. The advance team will kick this place down before we fire. After Yi Jian agreed, Lu Dui felt more confident. A sniper was different from an ordinary soldier. A sniper was like a diamond in the team. As long as she appeared, she would be able to kill all the targets in one fell swoop, regardless of whether it was high firepower or high sentry post. The charging soldiers knew that there was a sniper protecting them in the dark. It was as if they were wearing an extra layer of bulletproof vest. They felt much more at ease. We're in charge of the top, while the Laotian police are in charge of the bottom. Go to the sentry post in the south. When you're done, you can immediately regroup and don't need to take a long detour. We have both the terrain and the people. Now we just have to wait for the right time. Captain Lu tried his best to think for Yi Qian. After all, he was in training and had been dragged along to carry out the mission with them. He couldn't not be considerate. Chapter 1074. And the timing he was referring to was a rainstorm. Wait for the rainstorm to come, then use the rain as cover to carry out the operation. Yi Qian nodded. I have no problem with that. I will follow the team's arrangements. The sentry posts were all above. Brother Hong and his team were guarding against the Chinese border police. Soon, the news of the sniper taking care of the sentry post in the south was spread to the teams in the mountains. The most important thing was settled, and they were waiting for the signal to come in. With the enemy's strength, it was necessary to have 3 snipers. If they even had machine guns. Yi Qian, who was rushing towards the sentry post in the south, pursed his lips. He was afraid that there would be casualties. After reaching the south, Yi Qian finally understood why Xia Jinyuan said to go from the north to the south. If you didn't look carefully, you wouldn't know that there were people living in the villages in the mountains. After finding a few observation posts, Yi Qian finally saw a village in the corner of the mountain through the dense foliage. It was a typical Laotian farmhouse with triangular roofs and thick cross-weaved bamboo walls. From where she was, there were as many as 5 households. But with the Laotian police there, at least she didn't have to worry too much. Time ticked by. Yi Qian, who had found the best sniping position, had been in hiding for 2 hours. The Type 88 sniper rifle had an effective range of 800 meters. At a distance of 1,000 meters, it could penetrate 3 mm thick A3 steel plate. With Yi Qian's sniping skills, she could choose between 800 meters and 1,000 meters. But she didn't. Instead, she chose a range of 500 meters, because if the firepower from below increased, she could reduce her running time by 300 to 500 meters. She could support the border police faster. The highly accurate Type 88 sniper rifle in Yi Qian's hands was a weapon to protect her comrades. As the time for the operation approached, Yi Qian's eyes moved closer to the scope, quietly waiting for the time to come. The rainforest was very quiet. No birds flew past, and no animals ran away. Yi Qian, who was perfectly disguised, saw the 3 snipers walking back and forth at the sentry post. From time to time, they would use binoculars to look into the mountains. The observation positions were all at the borders of the central region. Half an hour later, it started to rain heavily. Amidst the fine raindrops, Yi Qian slowly locked onto the crosshair of her scope. Amidst the sounds of the rain hitting the leaves, Yi Qian fired her first shot. Bang! The sound of the gunshot was muffled by the sound of the rain. The first shot was fired, the gun was reloaded, and the shell was ejected. Then she fired the second shot, and the third shot was a perfect shot to the head. Even though Whistle reacted quickly, he was still 1 step behind Yi Qian's bullet. The rain was so heavy that the sound of the sniper rifle was drowned out by the rain. When Yi Qian's 4th shot hit a sharp wooden carving on the sentry post, the China border police hiding near the southern sentry post rushed into the rain. Take care of the southern sentry post. Take care of the southern sentry post. The signaller immediately reported the situation on their side, so that the brothers in the 3 positions could cooperate and advance. Lu Dui and the other teams all received the news and were all surprised. So fast. So fast. What's the situation with Team B? What's the situation with Team C? Team A's sentry post has been taken care of. Team A's sentry post has been taken care of. 2 snipers, 2 snipers. Team B and C quickly reported back. Soon, the other 2 sentry posts were taken care of. The Laos police received the news from the Chinese side and also rushed into the village. Yi Qian didn't leave immediately. Instead, she approached the village. Captain Xia had said that actual combat was hard to come by. Chapter 1075. The people living in the village were not villagers, they were all Brother Hong's drug manufacturing personnel. The real villagers had received a large sum of money and moved out of the village. This was also why Laos and China had not been able to find out where Brother Hong was manufacturing drugs. It was raining heavily, the leaves were pressed down by the rain. There was also a layer of leaves on the ground, all from the rain. Yi Qian jumped over a ditch and had already infiltrated the village. The gunfight began, the machine guns in the village fired a string of bullets, using the firepower to slow down the footsteps of the Chinese armed police. It was not just 1 machine gun, but 3 houses in a triangular building. The pointed house in the middle was a machine gun. The firepower was so strong that the Laos and China people had to hide temporarily. When the Chinese advance team took care of one of the machine guns, Yi Qian bent down and used a silver wire to instantly wrap around the target that the machine gunner was guarding. With a violent pull, he directly pulled the target out of the window. The military dagger was already waiting for the opponent. He slashed the neck. As blood splattered, Yi Qian jumped into the house, wrapped the silver wire around the machine gunner's neck again, and pulled him back. With another leap, he used the blood-stained military dagger to take care of another target. This time, the machine gun's firepower was not focused on the front, but on the left and right, the houses with wooden walls. The enemy in the house did not expect a sneak attack from behind. He was immediately turned into a sieve by the powerful machine gun bullet. He did not even have the chance to scream before he stopped moving. With the 2 breakthroughs taken care of, the Chinese side's progress was exceptionally smooth. Because they knew in advance that there were machine guns in the village, the Chinese side had been moving stealthily and did not directly expose their targets. There were casualties, but at least there were no deaths. Yi Qian did not have communications, so he could not immediately inform the Chinese side. After taking care of this point, he quickly rushed to the next point. Coincidentally, the advance team also arrived at the machine gun point. An armed policeman appeared on the left side of the house, while Yi Jian appeared on the right side. The 2 of them met face to face, and their first reaction was to rush to the window. They were on the same side. With one move, they had opened up the situation in front of them. So they were on the same side. That was good, that was good. There are still 2 more points, they're all facing Laos, 4 of our brothers are supporting them. The young armed police officer, who had just taken care of the criminal in front of him, was lying in the rain, gasping for air. Brother, you stay here. I'll go and support the other brothers. Yi Qian nodded. All right, I have no problem with that. Female soldiers? Someone from our team? Amazing. The armed police officers, who were about to get up, immediately crouched back down when they heard the voice. They looked at Yi Qian's face, which had been washed away by the rain. I've never seen him before. Be careful. I'll head over first. He had never seen a female soldier so powerful before. Yi Qian was guarding an exit. She did not hide in a house that could be blown up by a bomb. Instead, she chose to hide under a pile of rocks. It was an exit that led to the mountains. As long as she guarded it, she would definitely find something. When he saw a few figures dashing over, Yi Qian grabbed the policeman's sleeve and said, "The big fish is here. Brother Hong is here." How could the big fish leave when it was here? Moreover, there were other big fish beside the big fish. All the more reason he could not leave. Brother Hong escaped in a hurry, but he walked slowly. The bullet in his leg had just been removed, and he was finally able to catch his breath. But then something happened. When this happened, Brother Hong suddenly understood why he was able to escape from the armed police so easily. He had fallen into a trap. He had fallen into a trap. Chapter 1076. There were a total of 6 people around Brother Hong, and in the middle was a tall, thin man with a slightly hunched back. From his position, it was obvious that this man's status was higher than Brother Hong's. The armed police made a beheading gesture to Yi Qian, then set up the rifle in his hand and began to aim. Yi Qian returned the gesture. There are targets more powerful than Brother Hong. When they appear, I'll snipe them first, and you'll cut off their tail. We'll flank them from the back and prevent any pursuers from coming out. Okay, be careful. The armed police immediately picked up the rifle he had set up, bent over, and circled back to cover the rear. With a pincer attack from the front and the back, they had to be wary of someone shooting from behind, but with a sniper, the armed police didn't hesitate to cover the rear. In an operation, not only did comrades have to cooperate well, but they also had to have 100% trust in each other. Although Yi Qian had only joined the operation at the last minute, the way he cleared the muzzle of the machine gun left a deep impression on the young armed police. Building trust was sometimes that simple, and one cooperation was enough to make people trust each other. The 4 men escorting Brother Hong and the other 2 were like bodyguards. The guns they were holding were not ordinary rifles. They were all Steyr submachine guns that could be fired with one hand and could function as both submachine guns and handguns. This type of gun could fire a single shot with a light press of the trigger, and fully automatic with a safe press of the trigger. From the length of the magazine, it was equipped with a 30-round magazine. Even though they had powerful submachine guns, Yi Qian's target was still the big fish he had set his eyes on. 1, 2, 3. Here it comes. The rain was getting heavier, and Yi Qian's eyes never left the scope. When the target appeared, the crosshair wasn't aimed directly at the target's vitals, but slightly off. When the target dodged to the side, the crosshair in the scope instantly locked onto him. After a bang, the hunchbacked man fell backwards. There was no pause, and everything happened too quickly. Brother Hong, who was walking with the man, didn't even know what had happened, and subconsciously turned his head to look. Fortunately, the bodyguard beside him reacted quickly and used his shoulder to knock his employer to the side, while he pulled the trigger and fired wildly. The hidden pile of rocks was hit by the bullets, and stone fragments flew everywhere. Bang, bang, bang. The continuous gunshots sounded particularly dense in the heavy rain. Retreat, retreat. Several bodyguards quickly shouted in Lao. Brother Hong was so shocked that he dragged his injured leg and quickly deviated from the original escape route under the cover of 2 bodyguards. Press it down. Press it down. At this time, Brother Hong's face was as pale as a sheet of white paper. He retreated in an extremely embarrassing manner. Where are the others? Get over here. Brother Hong himself was a Laotian. Because he had been active on the China-Myanmar border for a long time, he spoke Chinese very fluently. He looked more like a Chinese than the native residents of Yun province who did not speak Mandarin. The entire village was filled with gunshot. The Laotian police rushed over from below and shouted, "Surrender your guns and we'll spare your lives! Surrender your guns and we'll spare your lives!" For the Chinese armed police, they didn't have that much time to shout, "Surrender your guns and don't kill." Whichever side's brothers encountered the fiercest firepower, they would immediately support them. Support, clean up, and support. Even though the entire operation was highly dangerous, it did not stop the brave anti-narcotics police from advancing. Chapter 1077. Motherf ** Kerr, they're using advanced weapons. These bastards, they're all dead. Don't leave a single one alive. 300 meters to the right, 4 targets. Move out. Cover, cover. A brother has been shot, a brother has been shot. Discovered the drug production chain, discovered the drug production chain. Prepare to blow it up. With the cooperation of the various teams, the Chinese armed police directly blew up the drug production chain. As for how many drugs were still inside, they didn't care. The mission this time was to eliminate them. The huge explosion sounded with a bang, and the entire village shook. The flames rose with the black smoke and were suppressed by the heavy rain. The smell of gunpowder in the air became stronger and stronger. Motherf * Kerr. The explosion startled Brother Hong, who was escaping. When he turned back and saw the black smoke rising, Brother Hong's face instantly distorted. My efforts are all gone, all gone. It wasn't just this one explosion. When the second explosion appeared, Brother Hong was lying on the ground, his hands digging into the soil. The murderous look in his eyes was like that of an African wild dog, so fierce that it was bloodshot. The 2 bodyguards didn't give him too much time to hate and immediately carried Brother Hong away. The village definitely couldn't be defended. They had to save their lives first. The blood that splashed out mixed with the rain and flowed with the water on the ground. The gunshots didn't stop, and the explosive fire didn't stop. The entire drug production village was sealed off, and the sound of gunfire and smoke were isolated from the world. 1 armed police officer was hit by a bullet. 2 armed police officers restrained the gunfire, and another armed police officer immediately dragged his shot comrade to a hiding spot. That young face, no matter how deeply the oil paint was applied, was clearly engraved with bravery and fearlessness between his eyebrows. You said that there was no war in peacetime, and that soldiers were purely wasting the taxpayers' money. However, in those unknown jungles and deserted deserts, there were always blood-stained military uniforms. Yi Qian's eyes were filled with the glint of a sword. Every gaze was cold and ruthless. The sniper rifle in his hand had a total of 10 bullets, and now there were only 2 left. Out of the 4 bodyguards, 2 were eliminated, and 1 was shot at a fleeing criminal target. The last 2 bullets had to be left for Brother Hong. The armed police working with her had been looking for an opportunity. His target was the last 2 remaining bodyguard. It was raining heavily. Yi Jian, who had rainwater flowing into her eyes, bent down and walked as if there were springs in her feet. She jumped up quickly and violently for the first time and ran towards the direction where Brother Hong had fled at the fastest speed. She had to snipe them before Brother Hong and force the other 2 bodyguards back into the shooting range of the armed police. The dense rain of bullets behind them created a thin layer of mist. The Chinese and Laos moved forward in a battle formation, and wherever they went, their bullets would be cleared. The Laos police, who originally wanted to surrender and not kill, had a few of their officers shot down by the other side, and their firepower directly increased to match the firepower of the Chinese armed police. Without any unnecessary talk, they cleared out everything along the way. Yi Qian crouched on top of the triangular roof of a house. The black hole in his gun aimed downwards and searched. The second last bullet was correct, and it hit Brother Hong in the chest. Bang, 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 bang. Continuous bullets swept over from one direction. Yi Qian, who was at the 11 o'clock direction, rolled a few times on the uneven roof when they swept the bullets in the 12 o'clock direction. Then, he bent his back and bent his legs and skillfully jumped down from the roof that was about 3 meters high. Chapter 1078. Yi Qian, who had undergone strict training, knew how to bend her legs to counteract the force of gravity when jumping from such a height. Her toes touched the ground first, and then her heels touched the ground. This reduced the force of gravity so that her legs would not be injured when jumping from such a height. Brother Hong was shot and killed. The two bodyguards beside him knew that they had no way out since they had been targeted by the sniper. They were in a desperate situation, and whether or not they could fight their way out depended on whether or not they could be ruthless. Obviously, the two bodyguards were ruthless. Otherwise, they would not have used their submachine guns to fight the sniper head-on. Yi Qian did not fire again. She only had one bullet in her sniper rifle. She would not fire until the last bullet was in critical condition. This was the advice of a world-class sniper. The young armed police officer working with Yi Qian had been hiding in the dark the whole time. He aimed at the back of one of the bodyguards. It would be a pity to miss such a good opportunity. It would be a waste to let the sniper down. Bang! Yi Qian, who had hidden well, heard the single gunshot. The bullets that were sweeping towards her decreased by more than half. She knew that this meant that the other bodyguard had been taken care of by the armed police. Yi Qian smiled. The anti-drug armed police in the Yun province area were well known throughout the country. Most of the soldiers had actual combat experience during their military careers. In the face of gunfire, they were calmer than the average soldier. They were good at seizing the best opportunity to complete their mission. The bullets in the submachine gun were limited. After shooting for so long, the magazine was completely empty. When the sound of something like a jammed cartridge was heard, the last bodyguard had no more firepower to suppress them. He immediately ran for his life. There would not be a second person in the entire village who would run away. Especially these bodyguards, who had been fighting with the armed police for a long time and had killed people with their own hands, would not let him go. The young armed police officer pulled the trigger and chased after him. How could he lose sight of a target that he had his eyes on? He could not stop until he had hit the target. This operation was called decisive action. It was the combat strategy that China and Laos had discussed together. Eliminating armed criminals on the spot was not against the rules. The armed police could also directly eliminate criminals who had escaped on the spot. Facing these criminals who had killed their comrades, there was no psychological pressure. They directly locked onto them and shot them. Chief Su, the two targets have been eliminated. Lu Dui reported the latest battle situation one by one. At this time, the Chinese armed police had eliminated the potential dangers in the village one by one in the form of a long snake. The large area of gunfire gradually decreased, and the bullets gradually became sporadic. The nearly 2-hour fierce battle finally came to an end. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the entire village was under control. In the village where there were no gunshots, the Chinese and Laotian sides began to clean up the scene. A large amount of drugs were found, but they were not carried out of the village. They were directly dealt with incendiary bombs. Yi Qian walked to Lu Dui's side and saluted him with her sniper rifle on her back. Her dark eyes were still bloodshot as she smiled and said, "Lu Dui, can I leave now?" She had completed all her tasks, so she didn't need to participate in the cleanup work. She could leave directly. Asking Lu Dui was a sign of respect. The two important targets have been sniped by you. Thank you, Yi Qian. Lu Dui returned the salute to the young female soldier. His dark and resolute face looked solemn. He said solemnly, "With your participation in this operation, the entire operation time has been shortened by at least half an hour. The elimination of the high positions in the south has also reduced our casualties. Thank you, Yi Qian." Chapter 1079. The casualty rate was a sad topic, and it was also a heavy number. Yi Qian saw tears in his eyes, and his eyes were a little tight and sore. He said softly, "Death is inevitable. They wore military uniforms and sacrificed themselves to protect the motherland. They are gone, but their spirit lives on. They will be remembered forever in the hearts of those who are still alive. As long as their spirit lives on, their spirit lives on. As long as their spirit lives on, their spirit lives on. They used their fearless sacrifice to influence generation after generation of soldiers. Generation after generation, their spirit lives on. You are right. Although they sacrifice themselves, their spirit lives on in our company forever." Xiao Ji said that he wanted to lie next to his comrades in the 4th platoon. He also said that he hoped that he didn't implicate you. "When it's over, I will bring him a glass of sorghum wine to tell him that you are safe." After hearing this, Yi Qian's tears suddenly flowed down. The rain splashed on his face. In fact, it was hard to tell which was tears and which was rainwater. Only those who cried knew how fierce the tears were at that time. Xiao Ji, the scout who brought her to Lu Dui's side, the young scout who showed the coldness of a modern soldier when he raised his gun. During this operation, at 3:34 p.m., he was assigned to protect two of his comrades. Unfortunately, he was sacrificed. Martyr Zhang Qingji, a scout from the Border Defense Detachment, a member of the party. He joined the army in February 1994 and died on February 5, 1999. He completed the mission and was awarded a first-class merit. He joined the army at the age of 19 and died at the age of 24. He used the best years of his life to dedicate to the motherland that he was loyal to and loved. He used his own blood to compose a heroic battle song. Yi Qian walked to his side and squatted down. He gently held the right hand of Martyr Zhang Qingji, whose eyes were closed forever. He said softly, "I am Yi Qian. Don't worry. I am all right. Very, very well. If there is an afterlife, I will wait for us to fight side by side again. Rest in peace, hero. As long as your spirit lives on, your spirit lives on." This was Yi Qian's first real sacrifice. At around 11 o'clock in the afternoon, he was still a little shy because he was a female soldier. Only a few hours later, when he saw him again, they were separated by life and death forever. As for him, his last regret was still himself. He was still worried about his own safety. Yi Qian, who had stood up, picked up his sniper rifle and fired his last bullet into the sky, giving it to his comrade, a hero who had already left the flames of war. He wished him all the best. Yi Jian took off her military cap and saluted. She only retracted her hand when the stretcher carrying the hero disappeared from her sight. "Take care of yourself. Our patrolling brothers are in the mountains. If you need any help, you can contact them in this area." Captain Lu took out the mountain road map that they usually use to patrol the mountains and marked out several locations where they usually contacted each other in the mountains. "You can leave a mark in any of these places. Our brothers will be able to find you." Yi Qian noted down the last few points. This time, he had encountered a drug dealer. He did not know if he would encounter one next time, so it was good to note it down. At 4:30 in the afternoon, Yi Qian left the village and set off again under the gaze of Captain Lu and the rest of the armed police. Looking back, she could still see a few towering figures standing in the rain, saluting her as they watched her leave. Yi Qian turned around and returned the salute to the armed police. Her gaze slid past their faces. She pursed her lips tightly and did not look back again. She plunged into the vast expanse of rainforest. Sadness was hidden deep in their eyes. Their eyes were so red that they looked like they were filled with blood. It was as if tears of blood would flow out if she closed her eyes slightly. This kind of suppressed sadness made her footsteps seem especially heavy. They were low and heavy, and they were filled with sorrow that could not be expressed. The rain stopped when it was close to evening. Thousands of kilograms of drugs that harmed the country and the people were destroyed in the village. For them, China sacrificed 3 armed policemen and Laos sacrificed 7 policemen. When they carried Lai Tu away, gunshots rang out in the mountains again. That was the gunshot that sent the martyrs back to the company. A bird flew across the dark sky, leaving behind a string of light chirps. Yi Qian stood on a high ground and heard the gunshots coming from the valley behind her. She wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes and continued to move towards her goal. 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. Starting from the day the final exams ended, Yi Qian spent New Year's Eve alone in the deep mountains and forests. After the 1998 Lunar New Year's Eve, Yi Qian welcomed a special new year in the rainforest. Chapter 1081. Yi Qian only remembered that she had been walking for 12 days. She didn't even think about spending the spring festival alone in the rainforest. Isolated and helpless, Yi Qian tried her best to protect her life. I will keep my mind clear, my body strong, and my mind clear. Without them, I can't repay my country. I won't let my country down, and I won't bring shame to myself and the army. My goal is to complete the mission and complete the next one alive. Every time she walked until her legs were as heavy as lead, her body was bitten by insects and she had a low fever. There were also the wild beasts that hunted for food. After every narrow escape from death, Yi Jian recited the creed of the special forces of various countries and forced herself to move forward with the creed and faith. The first day of 1999, the second day until the third day, which was the third day of the Lunar New Year, Yi Qian, who had been training alone in the wild for 15 days, arrived at the destination 4 hours earlier than expected. In order to reach the destination on time, Yi Qian split the 6 hours she had to participate in the drug extermination operation into 6 days. Every day, she would set off an hour earlier to make up for the 6 hours she had been interrupted. She arrived 4 hours early and leaned against a rock to adjust her breathing. 15 days of marching in the rainforest didn't feel anything, but when she came out and relaxed her tense nerves, tiredness and weariness rushed to her heart. Her eyelids were so heavy that it felt like several boulders were pressing down on them. She is indeed tired. Let her rest for a while. Looking at her tired figure, Xia Jinyuan, who was standing not far away, had a gentle expression on his face. He was so gentle that the warm sun was quietly protecting her. The skinny little girl of the past had grown into a qualified special forces soldier and was moving in the direction of excellence. Although he felt sorry for her when he saw how tired she was, he felt more gratified. The 18-year-old Yi Qian used her own strength to prove to the military that she could definitely become the youngest Special Forces soldier in the army. He had to show the military that she had endless potential and that she could continue to develop. The sun was very warm. It was indeed easy to fall asleep lying down like this. Let her sleep for a while. There were still 4 hours before the end of the march. She could rest for 4 hours. That's good. She came back 4 hours early and helped her brothers complete the mission. She is indeed tired. She's the only female soldier who can do this. Uncle Chen's eyes were full of kindness, as if he was a senior encouraging a junior. He had been using his own methods to nurture Yi Qian. It could be said that without Uncle Chen and old Uncle Jen, Yi Qian would never have become what he was today. Without these two elders who were like stars in the sky, the reborn Yi Qian would not have been able to enter the military even if he had solved the problem that changed his life in the second year of junior high. Xia Jinyuan respected Uncle Chen very much. Uncle Chen, leave this to me. Major General, please tell me in detail about Yi Qian's early enlistment. I would also like to make a suggestion. Perhaps we can ask the Major General for more resources for Yi Qian. For example, is it possible to arrange for the deployment of the military academy students during the winter and summer holidays? She hasn't been exposed to airborne, diving, or armored training yet. If she can learn these skills during her time in the military academy, everything will go smoothly after she graduates. Mountain warfare, jungle warfare, desert warfare, guerrilla warfare, anti-terrorist warfare, and ski warfare can wait until she graduates to accumulate experience. However, she must learn and master the skills during her time in school. Chapter 1082. Faced with a young major who was wholeheartedly thinking about Yi Qian, Uncle Chen couldn't help but laugh. Major Xia, aren't you afraid that all your efforts will be for naught if you nurture Yi Qian into such an outstanding person? It was obvious how much effort he had put into nurturing Yi Qian from all aspects. Do you not believe in Yi Qian? Or do you not believe in me? Xia Jinyuan smiled elegantly as he stood in the warm sun. Dressed in a jungle camouflage uniform, he looked calm and composed. No matter what, there's no such thing as a futile effort. Uncle Chen had always been very patient when it came to Yi Qian's matters. Seeing the confidence between his brows, although he was somewhat impressed, his words had a different meaning. What do you mean? Yi Qian is now a popular figure in school. When she enters the military academy, she will be like a golden unicorn that leaps out of the pool. I think a girl like her will have many suitors. Uncle Chen, you're wrong. Faced with an elder who constantly reminded him to treat Yi Qian with sincerity, the major, as a special forces soldier, behaved very appropriately and did not lose his composure. The more outstanding Yi Qian is, the higher her standards will be. The higher her standards will be, the more picky she will become. In the future, if you want to catch her eye, ordinary soldiers will have to stand aside. As a result, these suitors will naturally shrink back. As for the rest of the soldiers who can catch her eye, they will have to be divided into the outstanding and elite ones. When Yi Qian grows up to be an elite, he will be a distance away from being outstanding. Uncle Chen, do you think she will have many suitors in the end? There won't be many elites who can become an elite special forces soldier like Yi Qian and fight alongside her. As Xia Jinyuan spoke, he began to laugh. His increasingly mature and elegant smile was tinged with arrogance. No matter how many elites are by Yi Qian's side, I will always be the most outstanding soldier in her heart. Someone who is compatible with her, someone who can fight alongside her and share life and death with her. His words made Uncle Chen laugh uncontrollably. Yi Qian has good taste. I believe that the two of you will become comrades in life and death, and spend the rest of your life together. He glanced at the motionless slender figure and said, I'm going to have a chat with the Major General. I can rest assured with you guarding this place. The spring festival was a time of reunion for the lights of the homes, but for some soldiers on the front lines, it was the beginning of a year of training. The place where the armored troops rested after their maneuver exercise was the grassland in the forest. Yi Qian only had to cross a small hill to see armored vehicles resting there. Yi Qian, who had arrived 4 hours early, knew that he had entered an important military zone. Only then did he relax and catch up on sleep. He had only wanted to catch up on sleep for a short while to replenish his energy, but unexpectedly, he slept for a long time. On the other side, the Major General finally saw the person who had trained Yi Qian since he was 13 or 14 years old to become an international sniper. With one glance, he inexplicably felt that he looked a little familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. The Major General was 54 years old, while Uncle Chen was 47 years old. In terms of age, they were only 7 years apart. If he had seen him somewhere before, it was impossible for him not to remember. When Uncle Chen came closer, the Major General suddenly strode over. As he walked, he sized up Yi Qian again. He was even more certain of the person who had trained Yi Qian. The soldier King Chen Dongfeng from the 1970s. He was a legend in the 1970s, a god of war who had joined the army in the 1970s. He must have experienced sacrifice, and he must have seen his comrades fall. He had seen it and experienced it, but he was still standing strong. He had always been a role model for him to learn from, a goal for him to move forward. Seeing her smile, Xia Jinyuan's heart sank a little. Although she was smiling, she looked very tired, and there was a trace of haze between her eyebrows. The after-effects of wilderness survival had appeared on Yi Qian. He reached out and patted her shoulder lightly. "Beautifully done, Yi Qian. You're the best soldier I've ever met. My little fox, having you by my side is something I'll be proud of for the rest of my life. You've become my pride, and I'm determined to become your pride." Chapter 1084. To be honest, this kind of survival experience would have been better if you had a partner. When you walk alone, it's as if there's no one else in the world other than you. It's as empty as if you're the only person on Earth. Sometimes it takes a lot of energy to suppress the negative thoughts. Seeing him, Yi Qian couldn't help but talk about her 15 days of survival training. Xia Jinyuan didn't interrupt her. He smiled warmly and quietly listened to every word she said. 15 days of wilderness survival training by himself not only honed his physical fitness, but more importantly, it also honed his psychological quality. She had suppressed it for too long and needed to be guided so that all the negative thoughts and stress would be resolved during the conversation. Eliminating the bad and leaving the best to achieve the effect of psychological training. She had just entered the entry level of psychological training. There would be more brutal training in the future, such as escape and resistance training, including escape, protective camouflage techniques, and resistance when captured. Xia Jinyuan's eyes were warmer than the sun and had the power to soften Yi Qian's heart. She was able to tell him all about the 15 days of psychological training. Little Fox, survival training in the wild was essential psychological training for a special forces soldier. This was to lay a good foundation for the brutal psychological training that was to come. Motivation, responsibility, maturity and stability, teamwork, intelligence, physical adaptability, trustworthiness, how strong one's psychological resistance was, how strong one's ability to escape. Yi Qian had to go through all of these. Sometimes when I sit down, I don't dare to think too much. I'm afraid that I'll really get lost in the rainforest. So I just sit down and recite the creeds and beliefs of the special forces from different countries. At this point, Yi Qian's eyebrows curved slightly. Her bright black eyes revealed a hint of slyness. "You don't say, it's really useful." These creeds and beliefs are powerful psychological weapons that the Special Forces soldiers use to resist negative thoughts during training. It's the same for me. But I think that if the Special Forces of other countries can do it, as a Special Forces soldier from China, how can I be worse than them? I have to do it. There's no why. Xia Jinyuan held her hand. Her combat gloves were worn out. She had endured 5 more days of survival training than the male soldiers. This was enough to shock the military. "You've done a great job. You've completed the psychological construction of yourself in a very normal way. Yi Qian, everyone can see your excellence." Xia Jinyuan didn't point out her shortcomings. It wasn't time to point them out yet. He wanted her to finish what she wanted to say first. Right now, Yi Jian's training was only recorded in the military, but not all the details of her performance were recorded. Once she was admitted into the military academy, all her training would be systematized. Some of the key training would be even more detailed, such as her facial expressions and actions, and everything would be recorded clearly. He was 100% sure that Yi Jian would pass the test in terms of physical fitness, combat, marksmanship, endurance, perseverance, and camouflage. The focus was on her psychological training. Next, he would advise Uncle Chen to strengthen Yi Jian's psychological training. Yi Qian tilted her head and looked at the familiar and safe face. She touched her lips and smiled. I haven't spoken to anyone for almost 10 days. I'm very happy to see you. Very, very happy. I didn't have much to say at first, but when I saw Captain Xia, I didn't know why I couldn't help but say everything. I couldn't control myself. Chapter 1085. I am also very, very happy to be able to listen to your conversation with me. Listen, Yi Qian. You will be going through psychological training. We usually call it the survival diary of a loner. Considering that this is your first time surviving in the wild, we chose winter as the training time. Next year, we will arrange for you to go to summer. The goal is for you to train in harsh environments such as deep mountains, dense forests, and swamps to develop the psychological qualities that a special forces soldier should have. In my first year of military school, I skipped basic training and went straight into purgatory training. It took me a total of 3.5 years. Yi Qian, this is just the beginning for you. Her expression was no longer gloomy, and her smile was so bright that it touched his heart. At the right moment, Xia Jinyuan mentioned what kind of training she would have to undergo next. Yi Qian immediately understood that the training she was going through now was only at the entry level. When he heard Xia Jinyuan say that he skipped basic training and went straight into purgatory training that lasted 3.5 years, Yi Qian couldn't help but gasp. No wonder he was so powerful when he was only 20 years old. No wonder he became a major right after graduation. No wonder. He said that while she was working hard, he was also working hard. No wonder when she said she set him as her goal, he gave her a meaningful smile. It turned out that he had gone so far so fast. I went through a total of 4 rounds of psychological training in the wild. The first round was in the deep mountains and forests in the summer, where there were all kinds of venomous snakes and ferocious beasts. The second round was in the desert, where the sun was so hot that I almost got heatstroke. The second round was in a world of ice and snow, where my hands and feet felt like popsicles. The third round was when I was captured. Every round lasted 5 days and nights, and I only finished when I passed. Hearing Yi Qian's serious expression, she had a question. You lasted 5 days and nights. Why did I last 15 days and nights? That was the question. The basic training for male soldiers lasts 10 days. You have 5 days more than the male soldiers. Like our comrades in the team, all of them have 15 days. This sentence was equivalent to hinting at Yi Qian's plans. Yi Qian's eyes flickered, as if he understood something. It's good that you understand. Now, I'll have to wait for the military's opinion on what to do. Blinking his eyes at her, the iron-blooded and gentle handsome Special Forces soldier suddenly became childish. His thin lips moved closer to her ear, and he chuckled softly, "Secret, our secret, no one can tell." Yi Qian was so close that his breath tickled her ears. She tilted her head unnaturally and said, "Thinking about it, I'm really looking forward to it." I'm also looking forward to it. You already have actual combat experience with us, so your mental stability is already quite outstanding. However, since you've been fighting with us since the beginning, you've missed out on basic training. It's inevitable that your emotions would fluctuate greatly when you see your comrades sacrificing themselves. She only talked about her 15-day mental journey, but avoided talking about the fight with the drug dealers. He learned from Su Yu that a martyr had met Yi Qian once. She even used the last bullet in her sniper rifle to send the martyr off. When he heard this, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. In the previous few battles, his little fox had never seen a comrade she knew sacrificing himself. This was no small matter. He shouldn't have been here, but he quickly wrote an application and rushed over as soon as the application was approved. Based on his understanding of her, she wouldn't say these things out loud. She would only keep it in her heart. And this was what he was afraid of. Chapter 1086. No matter how strong and resilient she was before, when faced with the sacrifice of a comrade she knew in the same battle, this huge impact was not just a single impact, but multiple. In the army, after every battle, there would be a psychological specialist to guide the soldiers who were on the battlefield for the first time, so as not to leave them with an irreparable psychological trauma. Yi Qian had already participated in actual combat, but she had never faced the sacrifice of a comrade she knew. If she really did not mention it, Xia Jinyuan would not be reassured, but would be even more worried. Now, when the haze between her eyebrows faded, he mentioned the sacrifice of a comrade so that she would no longer suppress herself. She would be in her healthiest, most determined state, and use her own perseverance to overcome the multiple impacts of her comrade's sacrifice. She must not leave a trauma, she must face it head-on. Xia Jinyuan's gaze fell on Yi Qian's face like the warm sunshine after a snowstorm. His gentle and handsome face did not change at all when he mentioned the sacrifice of a comrade. However, there was a faint coldness in his voice that directly cut into Yi Qian's bloody memories that she did not want to recall for the time being. Yi Qian's pupils constricted slightly. She pursed her lips and looked coldly at the man who never allowed her to escape. After a while, she smiled bitterly and said, "Captain Xia, I need a little more time. The people I know, who were smiling and talking to me shyly in the afternoon, will be forever separated when we meet again in the afternoon. I always thought that I had participated in actual combat and had faced death directly. I even thought that my attitude towards death was calm. But when I see my comrades fall, my heart—" Yi Jian slowly stopped and let out a long sigh. Then, she said softly, "There's an indescribable feeling. Discomfort, anger, tears. All of these piled up together. I don't know where to start. I also want to say it, but the more I want to say it, the more I don't know where to start. I understand that as long as I wear a military uniform, there will be sacrifices everywhere. The next one is very likely to be you. Captain Xia, I understand, but no matter how much I understand, I still feel sad." Xia Jinyuan put his hands on her shoulders and said in a low and cold voice, "Look at me, Yi Qian. Raise your head and look at me with your eyes. Look at me and listen to me carefully." There was a soft spot in her heart that belonged to her comrades. Yi Qian was not afraid of sacrificing herself, but she was not willing to see her comrades sacrifice themselves. What is the meaning of sacrifice? It's about protecting, using one's own life to protect our homeland, using one's own life to defend the peace of our country. You saw his sacrifice, but you must also remember why he sacrificed himself. That's because sin exists. There are too many evils in this world, too many wars, too much harm, and our existence is to use our lives to wipe out the evils that harm our country. If one day I sacrifice myself, Yi Qian, the gun in your hand, the bullets you shoot, every evil that you hit is the best sacrifice to the martyrs. You feel sad for your comrade who sacrificed himself, not because you aren't strong enough, but because you are a living person, a person of flesh, blood, and thoughts. Anger, sadness, tears, and sadness are all emotions that you are born with, and it's impossible to completely remove them. Chapter 1087. But you have to find another way to deal with these emotions that affect our judgment. Anger can be turned into radicalization, Sadness can be turned into motivation, tears can be turned into fearlessness, and sadness can be turned into bravery. All sacrifices are the motivation for us to radicalize. Inherit the fearlessness, bravery, and fearlessness of the martyrs, and use the guns in your hands to continue protecting our country. This is the best way for you to pay tribute to the martyrs. When faced with cruel things, you can only face them, and you have to face them seriously. I'll say it again, Yi Qian, if one day I sacrifice myself, or you sacrifice yourself, every evil that is hit by a bullet from a living person's gun is the best way to pay tribute to the martyrs. These words were like a huge bomb thrown into Yi Qian's heart. The impact of the explosion fiercely squeezed his soul, shattering it into pieces. Under his cold voice, the shattered pieces of his soul were pieced back together piece by piece, piecing together a complete Yi Qian who had been reborn from the gunfire. The best way to pay tribute to the martyrs was to pick up the gun in your hand and shoot every evil that was hit by a bullet. This was the best way to pay tribute to the martyrs. Yi Qian took a deep breath. She was originally a quick-witted person with a strong ability to accept things. She also had a strong soul that had experienced many hardships. After being awakened by Xia Jinyuan's words, she quickly walked out of the bloody memory that she didn't want to recall. If it were any other time, you would have been able to walk out of it without my persuasion. 15 days of outdoor survival training is a challenge to your mental and physical limit. Walking alone in a rainforest where you feel like you're the only one in the world has already affected your mental state to a certain extent. It's normal for someone like you, who has never experienced anything like this, to find it difficult to accept the sacrifice of your comrades. We've also experienced sacrifice. 10 people went out and 9 came back. I locked myself in my room for 2 days and didn't come out of it. G3 plunged into the training ground and after 24 hours of self-harm training, he collapsed due to exhaustion. J5 memorized military rules for an entire day. Han Zheng hung himself on a tree. In the end, the entire team was alarmed and thought that he had been taken away by a tiger in the mountains. We all had the same emotions as you, but at that time we were already past the age of psychological counseling. One by one, we resolved the stress in our hearts. 2 days later, we packed up and came out looking normal again. Yi Qian's current performance was already very good. In the face of sacrifice, she didn't show any negative emotions like fear or cowardice, which were the most taboo as a special forces soldier. She only felt sad and sad. These were normal emotions for her to sacrifice for her comrades. It was already very good for her. Captain Xia, Yi Qian, Yi Qian, Yi Qian with it, Yi Qian. In the end, Yi Qian wiped away the layer of gray accumulated on her soul. The haze between her brows also disappeared under the sunlight. She raised her head slightly and looked at the stalwart soldier standing in the light. She smiled faintly and said, "At the same time, you've shown me once again how strong the goal I've been chasing is. Thank you, Captain Xia. Thank you for always appearing in front of me immediately and helping me solve difficult problems that I couldn't figure out in such a short time." Seeing that she had once again defeated herself, Xia Jinyuan smiled slowly and leaned over to kiss her forehead. "Yi Qian, you're my pride. You're the best female soldier in my heart. I'm proud of you." Chapter 1088. Xia Jinyuan didn't just praise Yi Qian. When he praised her, he gave her pointers. Sometimes he would even criticize her sharply. When his warm lips moved away from her forehead, Yi Qian stared at him intently, waiting for him to criticize her for the shortcomings of her field training. She was also very happy to hear his criticism. Xia Jinyuan had said everything that needed to be said. If there were still things that she couldn't figure out, she could only rely on herself to figure them out. Not everything needed someone to find a breakthrough for you, and not all psychological obstacles would be solved by someone. This time, It was only because it was the first time she had sacrificed herself in front of a comrade she knew. That was why he had rushed over. This was the only time, and there wouldn't be a next time. Seeing that she was still waiting for him to say something, Xia Jinyuan smiled and said, "Let's go and rest downstairs. An armored unit has just finished their winter training. The Major General is also there. He knew that you were training in the wild and specially waited for you to come back. There are some things that he wants to ask you personally." Without saying anything else, he took the lead and strode towards the camp where the troops were resting. "Hurry up. The 15 days of survival training are over. There are still so many days of vacation left. You can learn new things from the armored unit. The survival training can come to an end for the time being." The low and handsome voice drifted over along with the wind in the mountains. Yi Qian jogged over, her clear eyes shining like obsidian under the sunlight. "Armored unit? How many armored vehicles are there? How many days will they stay here? How will I enter the armored unit? Will the Major General agree?" She used the gun in her hand, and every bullet she fired to pay tribute to the martyrs who sacrificed themselves. She thought that she would continue to pay tribute to the heroic souls who sacrificed themselves for this country without hesitation. Yi Qian took a deep breath and buried the bloody memories deep in her mind. She used the bloody memories to spur herself on. If one day she wore the military uniform, even if it was stained with blood, she wouldn't be afraid. The meaning of sacrifice was to pass on the legacy. It was the martyrs who used their brave and fearless blood to tell the generations of soldiers that they were not afraid of sacrifice. They were to face it bravely and fight for the country and the people. Faced with her questions one after another, Xia Jinyuan, who was wearing a jungle camouflage suit, turned around. His handsome face under the QGF-02 Kevlar helmet suddenly revealed a charming smile without any warning. His sexy thin lips curved into the sexiest curve. "You'll understand all the questions after you see them. However, you still need to work hard. The Major General admires you very much, little fox." Whether or not you can learn from the armored soldiers in your last week's holiday depends on how you convince the Major General. Opportunities had always been fought for by oneself. He didn't stay here for long. He would leave by helicopter at 3:30 in the afternoon. Seeing that she was safe and sound, and that she had heard his words and remembered them in her heart, he would have to figure out the rest by himself. Yi Qian's footsteps became lighter. When she climbed over a small hill, Yi Qian was stunned by the scene in front of her. The armored unit had terrifying lethality, attack power, and destructive power on the battlefield. They could even attack several times in one round. This unit, which was composed of armored vehicles and soldiers, could be said to be a unit that represented military strength. At the foot of the hill, tanks, IFVs, armored reconnaissance vehicles, armored transport vehicles, all kinds of armored self-propelled weapons were parked neatly. The scene was so shocking that it made people stop breathing. Chapter 1089. What do you think? Do you have the urge to understand everything? Xia Jinyuan saw that she had stopped in her tracks and was staring intently at the rows of armored vehicles. Her eyes were as bright as the light, and he couldn't help but reach out and gently pinch her cheeks. The armored forces are on the front line of fierce battles. Go take a look inside the tanks, the IFVs, and the reconnaissance vehicles. It'll be good for you. Another year had passed. Yi Jian was growing up, and the young Major Xia had also become more mature. The elegance in his gestures was no longer as oppressive as before. Instead, he had become more reserved and deep. When he looked at others, his deep black eyes, which were filled with ferocity during battle, were filled with an invisible majesty. There was also a darkness that no one could understand. It was deep and dark, sometimes benevolent and sometimes cold. And when these unreadable eyes looked at Yi Qian, there was only a simple understanding. Yi Qian could see it clearly. The look in his eyes was telling her that he supported her, Just like before. I'll give it a try. Yi Qian nodded. She winked slyly and smiled brightly. You've already reminded me. How can I miss such a good opportunity? Xia Jinyuan nodded. You're worth teaching. If there's no chance, we have to create one. Now that there's an opportunity, how can we miss it? I'll support you in convincing the Major General to stay with the armored forces for a week. After speaking, the two of them looked at each other and smiled. There was a kind of telepathy in their smiles that reverberated back and forth in their hearts. When the strong worked together, no matter how difficult the problem was, it would not be difficult. The Major General and Uncle Chen chatted happily. You've trained her to be very outstanding, and our military needs excellent soldiers like her. She's only 18 years old. The military is looking forward to her enrolling in the military academy as soon as possible so that she can contribute to the war. Let me tell you something. Since Yi Qian has an extraordinary memory, the military intends to train her to be an all-rounder. As long as she enrolls in the military academy this year, we'll immediately call her to the military after the results are out and begin systematic training. Your 4-year plan is quite good. It allows the military to skip a lot of basics when training Yi Qian. When I return, I will discuss with the military headquarters to create a more comprehensive and intensive training program for Yi Qian. When the time comes, I will also tell you this plan for your reference. He was the soldier king of the 1970s, a soldier king who spoke with his strength. His opinion was very important. Uncle Chen had always known that the military was paying attention to Yi Qian, but he did not know that it was to this extent. A customized training plan? Who else would be so special? Apart from Miss Jian, it would be difficult to find a second person. The military values Yi Qian so highly because of her own effort. I've already taught her everything I can. My past has already become history, and I've already fallen behind in all aspects. Now that we've gone through digital and information-based high-tech battles, my method is already outdated and can't keep up with the changes in our country's military. After I finish teaching her for the remaining 6 months, I'll hand Yi Qian over to the military so that the military can train her to the next level. Uncle Chen was telling the truth. He did not know much about high-tech weapons. Only if Yi Qian joined the military would she be able to learn more and know more. With the Major General's words, Uncle Chen was even more relieved. The little girl that he and Uncle Jen had trained together was finally going to leave them. She was going to spread her wings and fly to a higher and wider sky. Chapter 1090. But the Major General denied it and said seriously, "Without you, I am certain that Yi Qian would not be where she is today. It is a tragedy to have a fine horse but not have a talent scout. But to have a talent scout who knows a fine horse is a good thing. You have a good eye for talent and used your unique method to train Yi Qian until she is only one step away from becoming a Special Forces soldier. Old Chen, you are a role model for all of us generals to learn from." The guard outside the tent said, reporting. The Major General replied, "Come in." Then he saw 2 figures walking in together. The man was tall and slender with elegant features, while the woman was slender and beautiful. They wore the same forest camouflage uniform as they walked over. One represented the male soldiers, while the other represented the female soldiers. Both of them could represent the entire military and be used for recruitment propaganda. Come, sit. When the Major General saw Yi Qian, he stood up and personally walked over to greet her. "You seem to be in good spirits. Surviving alone for 15 days. Yi Qian, good job." Uncle Chen was looking kindly at Yi Qian, his smile full of gratification. The little girl of the past had finally grown up. She was slim and graceful like a girl, but also had the temperament of a soldier. Her back was straight, and her expression was confident and reserved. When she spoke to the Major, she was calm and confident. She had grown up. She had grown up. She had grown up into an adult. The atmosphere in the command tent was very harmonious. From time to time, loud laughter could be heard. The Major General gave an objective evaluation of Yi Qian's performance during the survival training. He said, "Based on your current performance, you have completely met the requirements of the training. You have overcome your fear on your own and helped the border police to complete their mission successfully. The military is extremely satisfied with your outstanding performance. At the same time, I hope that you will continue to work hard and live up to Old Chen's training." Yi Qian was indifferent to the evaluation and praise of her superior. She did not have a trace of pride because she believed that everything she did was what she should be doing. There was nothing to be proud of. "Major General, speaking of training, there is another opportunity for Yi Qian to train. What do you think?" He was a man who was good at finding the right opportunity to make appropriate suggestions. He brought up the topic very naturally. Major Xia looked at Yi Qian with a serious expression. "Why don't you ask the Major General?" Yi Qian was still thinking about how to bring it up. As soon as he opened his mouth, he immediately asked with a very serious expression, "Major General, I happen to have a week of leave. When I saw the armored vehicle just now, I was wondering if I could stay in the army and learn more about these self-propelled weapons that are very powerful on the battlefield." After the idea was put forward, Uncle Chen looked at the Major General quietly. This was a good idea. He was also thinking about it. "Major Xia gave you an idea? Or did you think of it yourself?" The Major General, who did not immediately agree, looked at the serious young major with a faint smile. Then he smiled and asked Yi Qian, "Why do I feel like we've discussed this outside?" "We did discuss it." Two voices sounded at the same time. One was Xia Jinyuan and the other was Yi Qian. Their voices were loud and clear as they answered in unison. The Major General pointed his finger in front of each of their eyes. "It's a bold idea, but it's quite practical. 1 week is fine, but I'm afraid you won't be able to learn anything. You can try to understand it." He managed to convince Yi Qian to stay with just one sentence. Xia Jinyuan let out a long sigh. "Major General, you should have at least objected. You agreed so quickly that I didn't even have a chance to perform." "7 days is a short time, but I hope you can gain something here." Faintly, Yi Qian felt that something was not quite right. It was as if he was hinting at something. As a newcomer, even if there was a hint, she would not be able to figure it out without understanding it. However, since she had this feeling, it would be good to keep it in mind. The Major General looked at her with a thoughtful look in his eyes, and the smile on his face deepened. A good seedling was indeed different. She could immediately detect something unusual in a seemingly unintentional sentence. Just from such a small matter, she could see that Yi Qian was very attentive. In the afternoon, Principal Chen and Xia Jinyuan left together. Yi Qian only walked them to a place that was a short distance away from the helicopter. Hearing the sound of the propeller not far away, he said to Xia Jinyuan, "This year, my wish will come true. Captain Xia, I am one big step closer to my goal." Chapter 1092. That's right, and I will personally deliver the military uniform to you. Xia Jinyuan adjusted the helmet for her. "Study hard for a week. 6 hours of sleep out of the 24 hours is enough. Set aside the rest of the time." Yi Qian's lips curved into a smile. "I was planning to only sleep for 4 hours. Silly girl, they have 6 hours of rest. Are you going to take 2 more hours to stand guard for them?" He patted her shoulder and looked over her head to the 2 armored reconnaissance vehicles. He chuckled and said, "The self-propelled weapons of this armored unit are not bad. That armored reconnaissance vehicle is much more fun. Let's go check it out." Special Forces soldiers don't just know how to drive vehicles. You also need to know how to use tanks and fighter jet. For example, the Snowfield Brigade sometimes had to work with test pilots to fly the new fighter jets they developed. Yi Qian had a lot to learn in the 3.5 years. The Special Forces soldiers carried out special missions. Most of the time, they fought behind enemy lines or fought alone. The more they knew, the more protection they would have in future battles. If one day they needed to escape, even if there was a tank or fighter jet in front of them, they would have to know how to use it. After 15 days of survival in the wild, Yi Qian suffered from external injuries, fever, lost her way, and bee stings. After resting for less than 4 hours at her destination, she was ready for the next round of training in the blink of an eye. There was also the joy of the spring festival in the army. The Major General knew that Yi Qian had spent the Lunar New Year's Eve alone in the rainforest, so he specially ordered the cooks to make dumplings for Yi Qian as a way of consoling her. After consoling her mentally during the day, he came to settle things at night. That night, Yi Qian was sleeping soundly. Suddenly, someone snuck into her tent to assassinate her. Outside, someone was destroying the armored vehicles. Yi Qian knew that even if she only had 7 days to study, her days would be rich and colorful. Yi Qian took note of the Major General's words. When 2 people snuck into her tent, Yi Qian's first reaction was to lift the thin blanket covering her body and throw it at the shadow on her right. This was the army. The dark shadows that had snuck in were none other than the soldiers who had acted as assassins. Our armored soldiers don't just drive armored vehicles. They need to know more than that. Yi Qian understood the deeper meaning of this sentence. This time, Yi Qian wasn't frightened. Instead, she scared the soldiers who had sneaked in. She couldn't help but shout when she kicked. The woman's clear voice stunned the 2 soldiers who had sneaked in. Woman? Did he sneak into a family member's room? That's not right. Where did the family room come from? They were all out training. Where did the family room come from? Originally, they did not use much of their real skills, but when the 2 male soldiers heard that the voice belonged to a woman, they really thought that someone had sneaked in. Regardless of whether there was a problem or not, they had to capture the person first. Fist against fist, foot against foot, the tent was filled with the dull sound of flesh being struck. Outside, the Major General said to a company commander surnamed Zhua from the armored forces, "Guess how long it will take for this to end? The 2 soldiers you sent here are very good at fighting. One of them can take on several people. Since it's a female soldier inside, and it's 1 against 2, I think it won't take more than 5 minutes." Company Commander Zhua thought that he was being conservative. If he really wanted to say it, they should be able to take down the enemy in about 3 minutes. Chapter 1093. The Major General smiled meaningfully. That's not necessarily true. It's impossible for your 2 men to overpower her in 10 minutes, but she can overpower one of your soldiers in 10 minutes. The Soldier King had spent 4 years training the Special Forces. How could one soldier overpower them? That's not possible. Female soldiers are weaker than male soldiers in terms of physical fitness. Those 2 soldiers. Before he could finish, he heard a girl's voice say, "You've lost." Left Company Commander. How embarrassing! What a disgrace to his grandmother's home. So fast? The Major General was a little surprised. He had said that 1 soldier would be overpowered in 10 minutes. Now, it had only been 5 minutes and both soldiers had been overpowered. It was so fast that he couldn't accept it so quickly. The male soldiers of the armored forces shouldn't have been overpowered by Yi Qian in 5 minutes. If Principal Chen was here, he would think that Yi Qian could have sped up the time even more. After 4 years of rigorous training, overpowering the enemy in the shortest amount of time was more advantageous for oneself. If you shorten 5 minutes to 4 minutes, you would still have 1 minute to support your comrades or buy 1 more minute for the entire force's fighter jet. The 2 male soldiers were a little dejected when they came out. When they saw their company commander's face, which was already dark, turned as dark as coal. Beautifully overpowering 2 in 5 minutes. Good job. The Major General had always admired Yi Qian. Now that he could see her ability face to face, his appreciation for talent deepened. They're 2 of the best soldiers in Left Company Commander's company. I didn't expect them to make our company commander so angry. Left Company Commander only felt embarrassed. He couldn't even beat a female soldier. If word got out, he would be treated as a joke by other companies. Yi Qian said, "They're very good. It's just that I'm a woman and they were frightened by my sudden noise. Secondly, I have a weapon in my hand. It's very advantageous to fight in the dark. That's why I won. A loss is a loss. There's no need to make excuses." Left Company Commander shook his head and turned to stare at his 2 soldiers. He said in a low voice, "What do you think? We're not as good as them. There's no excuse. If you lose, you have to admit defeat." The 2 male soldiers admitted it straightforwardly. The result was right in front of their eyes. They had lost. There was no reason for it. You have to admit it. I'm going to run 5 kilometers. After that, I'm going to sleep. His attitude of admitting his mistake was pretty good. Fortunately, he didn't embarrass himself with his attitude. The Left Company Commander's mood improved slightly. His gaze fell on Yi Qian's face. He was full of questions. The Major General didn't stop the Left Company Commander's order. After the 2 male soldiers left, he said, "Don't underestimate Yi Qian. I'd be surprised if she didn't have some skills. It's not strange for you 2 soldiers to lose. After all, armored infantry is different from her. Don't feel embarrassed. How can you not lose against the special forces?" Hearing this, the Left Company Commander almost bit off his own tongue. It was already shocking enough that 2 male soldiers couldn't beat a female soldier, and now there was another 2 male soldiers going up against a female soldier from the special forces. It seemed that there was nothing embarrassing about losing. Also, there were no female special forces soldiers in their company. From the Marine Corps? It didn't look like it. She was also wearing army camouflage. It couldn't be the Marine Corps. A female soldier from the amphibious reconnaissance team. When the Left Company Commander left, he still saw the Major General whispering something to the female soldier from the special forces. From time to time, he would raise his hand to point at the armored vehicle, as if he was introducing something. Chapter 1094. The Major General was a Major General in the Army. He came from the armored forces and was very familiar with armored vehicles. Sometimes, he could even participate in the technical guidance and maintenance of armored vehicles. It was no wonder that Xia Jinyuan said that this armored troop was one of the most powerful troops. Since the leading general could be so hard-working and take the lead, the officers and soldiers at the grassroots level would naturally follow the lead of the general. For the next 7 days, not only did the Major General personally guide Yi Qian, but he also personally drove the tank and explained the different types of tank. Tanks with automatic loaders did not have loaders. They only needed a commander, a gunner, and a driver. The commander commands the entire vehicle in battle and is responsible for communications. The gunner is responsible for operating the cannons. The driver's job is a little more monotonous. The commander is responsible for driving. If we don't have an automatic loader, we will need another loader. For many years, there has been a lot of discussion about manual loaders and automatic loaders. Our country has manual loaders and automatic loaders. There is a problem with automatic loaders. Countries like the United States and other Western countries generally do not use automatic loaders. In terms of technical reliability, the main reason is that they have doubts about the reliability of the autoloader. Once the autoloader malfunctions, the disaster brought about by the war will be so great that it can affect the outcome of the battle. Our tank can reach a maximum speed of 65 km per hour, climb a maximum of 31 degrees, and wade 1.4 meters deep. It mainly uses armor-piercing shells and anti-personnel grenades. Look here. The Major General began to explain the operation of the tank. He explained everything to Yi Qian, from the commander to the gunner. The armored soldiers could have explained this kind of introduction to Yi Qian in detail. However, the Major General wanted to do it himself because he wanted to understand how capable Yi Qian was in these 7 days. She was quite satisfied with her performance on the first night. Yesterday, she had followed the armored soldiers to the artillery field. One of the tanks had a problem with its track. She did not say anything and carried the heavy equipment with the male soldiers. She did not show any signs of being tired. Last night, Commander Zhua had secretly said to him, "Major General, the female Special Forces soldier you're talking about can't be a woman, right?" That ruthlessness to herself, even I feel scared when I see it. She was even more ruthless than the male soldiers and was more like a soldier than the male soldiers. Such female soldiers were like gold in any army. Wherever they went, they would shine. Yi Qian, who was sitting in the driver's seat, didn't even wipe the sweat from the corners of his eyes. He stared intently at the Major General as he explained the equipment in the tank and the main functions of each instrument. The tank had a ventilation system. Although it was always on, sitting in a sealed space for a long time would cause one to sweat profusely. They were riding in a self-loading tank. The Major General carefully explained to Yi Qian the different types of self-loading. It was obviously difficult to understand, but Yi Qian listened with great interest. The Major General had been paying attention to Yi Qian's expression all this time. He had purposely come over in the middle of the day to instruct Yi Qian because he wanted to see how strong Yi Qian's perseverance was. The more he observed, the more satisfied the Major General was. He was even more impressed by the Soldier King's sharp eyes. If it weren't for his sharp eyes, based on the military's investigation of Yi Qian's family, it was very likely that such a talented person would be buried in the crowd instead of serving the country. Chapter 1095. The main components of a fixed-angle automatic loader are usually placed in the turret. The cannon must be locked at a specific angle before it can be loaded. It has a shortcoming, which is that every time it is reloaded, the cannon must be reset to its original position. Even the observation equipment must be reset. It can be said that although the fixed-angle automatic loader increases the firing rate, it also limits the combat effectiveness of the tank. Our military rarely has this type of tank. It is either manually loaded or non-fixed-angle loader. Yi Qian smiled and said, "I understand. The tank I sat in yesterday was a non-fixed-angle loader because I saw that it was a semi-automatic loader. The reloading and unloading were done manually. It is different from the fixed-angle automatic loader that you mentioned." "You are very observant." The Major General smiled approvingly and said, "That's right. Our armored forces mainly use non-fixed-angle loader tanks and fully manual loader tank. We have fixed-angle loaders, but they are very, very rare. Our country has countless military experts who have been improving the tank research. Just like the tank we are sitting in now, it may be put into production in the near future." In her previous life, Yi Qian did not pay attention to this area. If she did, she would know that China's fourth-generation Type 99 tank would be born soon. Once again, it would represent China's military strength taking a big step forward. As the main weapon of war, the tank could not stay in the same place. Even if the Type 99 tank was produced, China would not stop improving the tank. In order to become a big country, you must first be able to stand on the military side and make other countries fear you. From the Type 59 to the *******, to the Type 79 and then to the Type 99 tank that would be released in 1999, it could be seen that China had been secretly improving the tank. In 7 days, Yi Qian had a certain understanding of the development of China's armored forces. From the main battle tank to the light tank, she had a certain understanding of the performance and operation of each type of armored vehicle. As long as the Major General asked her something, she could answer accurately. Just as Xia Jinyuan said, 7 days would not make her proficient, but at least she had a general idea in her mind. If there were similar opportunities or formal training in the future, at least she would not be ignorant. After all, armored vehicles were not the strength of the Special Forces. However, for the Special Forces of the Snowfield Brigade, they needed to understand the functions and usage of their country's weapons and equipment. They were a mysterious Special Forces team. Their mystery lay in the fact that there was nothing they couldn't solve, no weapon they couldn't use, and nothing they didn't know. The Snowfield Brigade was full of mystery and terror. Other than the important leaders of the military, no one else knew about its existence. They had no name, no organization, and no one knew where their base was. No one knew where they came from or where they were going. They were like ghosts carrying swords. Wherever they went, there would be blood, but no one knew where they were. Every country knew about the Delta Force, the Alpha Force, and the Green Berets, but the Chinese Snowfield Brigade was nowhere to be found. They could not be found. They could carry out anti-terrorist operations, and they could also carry out activities that were unfavorable to China abroad. They could also rush to the front line on the battlefield and fight for opportunities for the follow-up forces. The soldiers selected from such a force were all the best of the best. After a long period of strict training, they finally had the Special Forces of the Snowfield Brigade with unique skills and extraordinary skills. The Major General was the direct commander of this force, and because it was the first time he had recruited a Special Forces female soldier, he was very cautious. Chapter 1096. Since he had the chance to observe Yi Qian up close, the Major General used a harsh gaze to evaluate Yi Qian. From his language to his attitude, from his ability to his intelligence, and from his physical and mental qualities to his training, he needed to give an objective evaluation of Yi Qian within 7 days. Yi Qian did not know that he had been included in the evaluation, nor did he know that the reason why Xia Jinyuan asked him to let her stay in the armored division for a week was to bring her to the Major General and let him evaluate her personally instead of reporting to the Major General through him. There were some things that Xia Jinyuan could not mention to Yi Qian before he became a member of the Snowfield Brigade, nor could he explain everything to her. Everything would proceed according to her wishes. Step by step, she held Yi Qian's hand and walked into his world, a world that she could not imagine. What was the most beautiful love? Xia Jinyuan did not understand. The only thing he understood was holding her hand and accompanying her in the way she liked as she grew up. Every day for 7 days, the Major General personally wrote down his evaluation of Yi Qian's overall abilities. He did not let anyone else do it. After Yi Qian left, this evaluation would be sent to the military as a top-secret document. Yi Jian's departure made company commanders heave a sigh of relief. Yi Jian could carry cannons, carry guns, kill people, and save people. She also had the godly marksmanship of 100 spears piercing a leaf. This made him, the company commander, feel a lot of pressure. After Yi Qian boarded the plane, he could not bear to let him go. He said to the Major General, "Major General, if such a soldier were to be placed in our division, he would be able to arouse the competitive spirit of the male soldiers. Save me some trouble. Every time after training, I see Yi Jian stronger than your soldiers. She intimidates Mr. Bao's face and roars in the middle of the night. Fortunately, she has a good mentality. Otherwise, she would be scared away by you." The Major General watched the helicopter take off and fly out of the mountains. He then smiled at Commander Zhua. "I heard you roaring the entire spring festival. If you still want Yi Qian to be placed in the division, the commander will fall out with you." As he spoke, the Major General's expression turned cold. Your training needs to be strengthened. I can understand that you can't beat her one by one. But I was so embarrassed that you didn't even notice that she had killed 4 sentries in the middle of the night." Although he was criticizing Yi Qian, he was very satisfied with his performance. With the Snowfield Brigade's abilities, it was normal for him to kill 4 sentries in one go. Commanders was straightened his back and saluted. Roger. The story of a female soldier killing 4 whistlers spread throughout the army for a long time. Everyone wanted to know who the female soldier was, but no one knew who she was. Who would know who she was with that painted face of hers all day? The sun was shining brightly at the border, but the southern province was still cold. Yi Qian stepped on the snow and returned to her residential area. Uncle Chen knew she was coming back and had prepared dinner for her. She pushed open the door to her room with Spring Festival couplets and saw a white-haired old man walking slowly in the living room. "Grandpa Jen." Yi Qian's voice trembled in surprise. She threw her backpack to the ground and ran into the living room without even changing her shoes. "Grandpa Jen, why did you come all the way here? Why are you here?" Her voice trembled, and her eyes were red with tears. "It's been more than 10 hours. How can your body take it?" 4 years had passed, and Grandpa Jen was already 80 years old. His hair was all white. Although he was walking slowly, his back was still straight. No matter how much hardship he had gone through, this first-grade sergeant major still maintained the dignity of a soldier. Chapter 1097. Uncle Jen gently patted the back of her hand and smiled kindly. "Your Uncle Chen brought me here. How can I be tired? You haven't come back to the village for 2 years. I was worried about you. Now that I see you, I'm relieved. You've grown up. You're a big girl now. The army thinks highly of you." No matter how far Yi Qian had gone, she was just a little girl growing up in Uncle Jen's heart. "I've grown up. You're old too." Yi Qian's voice was a little choked. She helped the old man sit down on the wooden sofa and said softly, "I haven't come back to see you for 2 years. I'm sorry for making you worry." Uncle Jen smiled and said, "In order to not let you come back, I've talked so much. Don't you think it's good now? You're valued by the army, and I'm also valued by the army in the village. What does it matter if you don't come back? Little girl, we don't have much time in our lives. The longer we live, the fewer days we have to live. When it's time for you to learn new skills, you need to live every day seriously. If you come back to see me, it'll take you 3 days to go back and forth. I don't want you to waste 3 days just to see me. You haven't come back to see me for 2 years, but now you've achieved something that makes me happy. My child, you've been using your own methods to prove to me that you've been working hard. You've lived up to my expectations. That's good. That's good. When people get old, they understand how precious time is." The 80-year-old old man used his life's experience to educate the child he had watched grow up. He only hoped that she would grow up and live up to her time. Yi Qian secretly wiped away the tears that she couldn't hold back. She tightly held the old man's withered hand that didn't have much vitality left. She pursed her lips and showed a stubborn expression. She smiled faintly and said, "I haven't come back to see you. I can only tell you with my own actions that I won't let you down. I won't let you down. Grandpa knows. Grandpa knows. You're a good child. You're Grandpa's pride." Uncle Jen had lost a lot of weight in the past 4 years, but he was still in good spirit. Although he spoke slowly, his words were clear and firm. Judging from his condition, the old man's body was still in good condition. When he saw Yi Qian wiping his tears, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Look at you, child. I didn't see you shed a single tear after 15 days of intensive training. Why are you crying now?" The old man had lived to this age, and had experienced the flames of war, so he was able to see through everything better than others. His witty yet insightful conversation soon made Yi Qian laugh heartily. She should be the one making the old man happy. Why was the old man making her happy instead? Knowing what the elderly liked to hear, Yi Qian picked the ones that he liked to hear. Snakes should be hibernating, but I met 2 pythons that were coiled around a tree. Those drought magnolia locusts were as thick as a pinky finger, and they stuck to their bodies. When they felt the pain, good fellow, I'm full. There are these in the mountains. It's much better than before. Back then, there were many tigers and wolves. When we crossed the mountains, we had to be tense. We didn't want to be eaten by the tigers before the battle even started. When they talked about Yi Qian's training, the smile on Uncle Jen's face deepened. This child looked cold, but he was kind-hearted. He even knew to pick the ones that he liked to hear. Chapter 1098. I went out to get some rice wine and little Miss Jian came home. Principal Chen's cheerful laughter came from outside the unlocked door. Little Miss Jian, drink with me and Uncle tonight and celebrate the spring festival together. Ever since Yi Qian graduated from junior high school, she had never celebrated the spring festival together. She used to train even during the first month of the year and only rushed back the day before school started. From the beginning of the year until the end of the year, training took up most of her time. The rice wine was mellow and the food was fragrant. Tonight was the day Yi Jian smiled the most and was the happiest. Saying something that hurt child Xia made her happier than when she was with him. Yi Qian didn't drink too much, not even one tael. She asked the 2 elders to persuade her to go to bed early. 22 days of continuous training was considered high-intensity training in any military unit. She needed to rest early. Yi Jian's mood was fluctuating when she came back. She drank some wine and chatted with her 2 closest relatives for 2 hours. Yi Jian, who was very happy, naturally listened to them obediently. After washing up, she really went to bed and fell asleep. After she fell asleep, Principal Chen poured a cup of warm rice wine for Uncle Jen in the living room. After touching the cup, he said, "In my opinion, you shouldn't talk about what you want to talk about for now. Why don't you talk about it after the college entrance exam? It's not long before the college entrance exam. Let her finish it in peace. The military is also waiting for her to pass the college entrance exam and officially enter the military. Uncle Jen, I'm afraid something will happen at this critical juncture. It's not worth it to affect Yi Qian's college entrance exam because of the Yi family's trivial matter." Uncle Jen took a sip of the wine and sighed. "That old woman from the Yi family is going crazy. She allows her son-in-law to do whatever he wants. I'm afraid that he will cause trouble in school and little Miss Jian won't be on guard. There's something wrong with that old woman and her son-in-law. I don't understand why they want you to talk to Yi Qian and persuade her to meet with them. Also, I heard old woman mention a jade pendant that night. Why do I feel like it has something to do with little Miss Jian? There's one more thing I wanted to ask you that night. Since you knew that Sun Yaozu was a wanted criminal, why didn't you contact the police to arrest him directly? Now, he's become a big scourge." When Principal Chen went back to fetch Uncle Jen to the provincial capital, he bumped into old Madame Yi with her son-in-law and daughter. He wanted to stop them, but Uncle Jen persuaded him to go back to his room. For the sake of Yi Qian, he must not come out. He didn't show himself, but he heard a lot of things. One was about the jade pendant, and the other was about Sun Yaozu's wanted criminal, who went from being a fugitive to being innocent. After asking, the living room fell into silence. After a while, someone said, "It's something that can't be explained in a few words, but I do regret not telling the police. As for the jade pendant, Miss Jian actually knows about it. It can be considered as her mother's relic, but I advise her not to take it back." Principal Chen's hand that was holding the peanuts paused. "I'm a little confused by your words. Since it's the relic of martyr Sun Xueqing, why would it become a scourge?" After she got the jade pendant, she put it in a small box when she came back. she was gone and turned into powder. When he mentioned Yi Qian's mother, every wrinkle on old Master Zhen's face was serious. She also mentioned to me that if she were to sacrifice herself one day, it would be related to the jade pendant. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.